Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast YouTube channel. Thank you very much for being a loyal listener and tuning in each and every week to our episodes. With the new year fast approaching, we have a special offer for you. Not only will you get 7 days for free when you go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast and become a Black Eagle VIP member, you will now also get 75% off on your first month going from December 1st to January 5th, 2025. So if you subscribe between the 1st, which is already past us, and the 5th of January, you will get your first month for just 50 cents. What will you get in return? You will, of course, gain access to our Black Eagle VIP podcast, which is a weekly podcast. But last week, I think I did about 5 or 6 episodes covering all the ins and outs of Beşiktaş, with Hasan Arat stepping down, Hüseyin Yücel becoming the new president, Samet Aybaba's press conference. All of that, we tackled it last week in a Black Eagle VIP podcast that you will gain access to. Of course, you will also gain early access to all the video content that we put out on our channel here on YouTube. And on top of that, you will also gain access to an audio-only file of those videos. So if you're one of those people who prefers to listen to everything on the go, then you will also gain access to the audio file of those videos. If you don't have YouTube Premium, that's always a nice added bonus. And of course, you will get a shout out at the end of our live shows each and every week. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the show. You're listening and or watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. The Black Eagles have risen from the ashes of November, and we have started off December with a glorious derby victory. Well, glorious, especially under the circumstances of our November. Of course, having picked up with finally another win, we have tasted the sweet, sweet taste of victory once again. And we are, of course, going to delve into all our thoughts about the derby match. And we're going to talk a little bit about our Thursday game coming up against Bodo Glimt. My name is Kaan Bayezid. As always, I am joined by my two co-hosts, Sinan Schwarding from New York City and Kartal Ur from Glasgow, Scotland. Boys, what a time to be alive. Beşiktaş win the game. A football match has been won.
Yeah.
Just 10 points to go, and we're back in the. We got the title. It's back. The dream is alive.
It was looking even a little bit better yesterday when after 12 or so minutes, Galatasaray went down to 10 men.
Yeah.
But then and then even went down a goal. But then the Sivas goalkeeper decided to hand out early Christmas presents, and they still managed to turn that game around with 10 men. So kudos to Galatasaray, of course, for being able to turn the match around with 10 men in those circumstances. Very cold in Sivas right now this time of year, so certainly not an easy task for them. I don't know if we would have been if we would have fared so well there right now given our current situation. But yeah, guys, a very important win, I think, going into this game. I don't know if you saw all those social media posts, those videos from Fenerbahçe fans getting interviewed before the game. Boy, were they confident they were gonna win this one. I was hearing a 3-1, 4-1. No, it's not gonna be a problem at all. You'd almost think these guys have won on the road in Turkish Stadium for the last 3-4 years running or something, right?
Yeah, who would? How could they get such ideas?
Can I really blame them for feeling like that? Beşiktaş hadn't won 5 games in the league. We'd won
Of course.
the last 7.
Although you should never count a derby the eggs before they hatch, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how to turn that expression around.
Just as a fan, like this, you're going up against a team that's not won in 5 games. It's only won one of the last 7. Also, last season you beat them home and away. Obviously, before that, like we hadn't lost them at home in like 9 years or whatever. But unfortunately, that came to an end last season. So I can understand the confidence. But obviously, we're all happy that their confidence didn't work out for them.
But if they were a Fenerbahce fan for as long as we have been Beşiktaş fans, Katil, especially me and Sian, because you were maybe a wee boy back then. But in the mid-2000s, we were pretty damn shit. And, we'd still almost beat them. Or we'd at least not lose to them, especially at home most of the time. I remember the epic 3-4 with Panku in goal and Koray scoring the winner right at the end. That was a game where everyone thought Fener is going to win this one big. They're gonna smack Beşiktaş. Beşiktaş are shit this season, and then we win that one. And it's not for naught that Beşiktaş is the team that has beaten Fenerbahçe the most in the history of the Super League. That's a reason for that. We are kind of their Angstgegner, just like Kasım Pasha are our Angstgegners.
And look, there's another aspect of this too, right? Like, no matter how good or bad your season is, you've always, like, if you've been a fan of the Super League long enough, derbies are always going to be a chaos agent to your season. You just have no clue how they're going to pan out. Yeah. And, I feel like it's almost, especially when you think things are going well, that a derby kind of comes along and throws you for a loop. So, in a way, this was very fitting as far as like the Super League and how just generally chaotic it is. It's like the perfect story for what Turkish football is all about. But, we can all celebrate it. I should mention Grey Wolf has already kicked in with the analysis. We got lucky. They had more chances, but both teams played shit. And it's hard to argue with that.
I think it is. It's one of those games. I think if Fenerbahçe were a little bit more ruthless, they would win this one. Like last season, I think they were a lot more ruthless. And I think in general for Fener, of course, this is a Beşiktaş podcast, but let's talk a little bit about Fenerbahçe. I think, on the Jose Mourinho, I kind of have the feeling like maybe more stable, but they were so much more impressive going forward last season. And not even that, because I didn't even think they were looking bad. I mean, every time Maximin was on the ball, you could see it caused real issues for us. And Dzeko played well. I mean, in the second half, when he had that chance that he takes on the turn, that was brilliant. I mean, he did everything perfectly except the finish. If that's a goal, that's what a goal that would have been. But they lack that little bit of. I think that's what they're missing this season to be champions. Last season, I think they had everything, and the fact that they didn't win the championship, that was a miracle in itself, I feel, because I think Galatasaray just kind of lucked out a little bit last season. 17-game win streak, some crucial decisions going their way. Of course, Fener had theirs as well, but especially, I think in the first half of the season, they were really lucky not to drop points in certain matches where they probably should have. Had they dropped a couple more points there, had Fener perhaps in that home derby against them shown a little bit more attitude and played for the win rather than being happy with a point, things could have been different. I think last season was Fener's year. This season, I think they lack that little bit of killer instinct, and that's going to ultimately end up haunting them, I think, because in this game, Fener last season would have won this one, I think. You guys agree?
I mean, I think it's not like last season in Turkish where we were embarrassed. We lost 3-1. It was the first time we'd lost to them at home in like 9 years or whatever. And
first time ever in the Tüpraş Stadium in Super League history.
So since the stadium opened, it was the first time in like 9 years in general. Before going back before it opened, but this year it wasn't like that. Like they weren't much better than us. I'd say they were a wee bit better than us, just a little bit better than us. Like they didn't outclass us or anything like that. It was a fairly even game, and once we get to the stats, we'll see that, I think. But I'd say they were maybe slightly better than us. They maybe had a chance or two more than we
They
did.
had more chances for sure.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It's not a huge gap, man. Like it's just a couple more, you know. Like last season, we were thoroughly like well beaten. We lost 3-1. It should have been more. Obviously, this year we won, and maybe they were the slightly better team. They created some more chances, but I wouldn't say they were a lot better than us. Like maybe slightly.
This kind of felt like one of those games where the first team that scores probably wins it. I think if they score in the first half, I don't really see us getting back into it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
Would you?
You know why I think we could pull this result though, and I think we've talked on this issue a number of times, but this was a match where nobody really put out a stinker of a performance. I mean, except for maybe Sharon Dur when he came in as a sub. I don't know what he was doing.
Rashica was terrible.
Oh yeah, Rashica. Yeah, that's true. But specifically like in the midfield and in the back, right? Like, and I think the key factor is maybe like take Masuaku. Masuaku had a rare, decent performance, right? He didn't really put too many feet wrong. I don't think I saw much.
Yeah. That's because he got paid, man.
Yeah,
they also didn't really attack that much over our left wing, because I feel like the majority of their attacks was focused over their left wing, aka our right wing. Yeah. So it was a lot of Maximin versus Svensson. I didn't really see.
And Svensson also was another guy who I thought really stepped up quite well. So like I guess that's my point, is that like nobody in those pivotal positions where like if they have a stinker of a game, it's gonna be like 4 chances created out of that kind of gap in our tactic. There was nothing like that. You know, Rashica, since he's a winger, obviously that sort of diminished our attack, but it didn't give them any clear-cut chances in and of itself. So I think that was kind of a decisive thing for us, is that we got pretty decent performances out of most of the side. And so I think when we play like that, it's never going to be as easy for other teams to get a result as I mean, as it's been when you have like 4 or 5 guys who put up kind of middling performances. Yeah, so, you know, like I don't know how you plan that. I don't know if you can coach that, because obviously, like you look at the slip ups we've seen all season, and you wonder what exactly it is that prevents them from putting in those kinds of performances consistently.
Money.
But yeah, I mean, in that sense, I
don't think so.
I agree with Özcan that I don't think we were like dominated by any stretch.
No,
it was a pretty back and forth game, right? Like the tempo of the game was
they weren't active. Dominating, but they were definitely more clinical in their chance creation, I'd say. I mean, look, that one chance that Emirhan saves off the line, that's a goal. You know, sure. Jacob beats Mert. I didn't think Mert looked good there, by the way. I was going to be really pissed at Mert if that went in.
Same.
If Emirhan doesn't save his ass. And for me, I'm going to throw this out there straight away, and I'm not going to give you boys the chance to steal my thunder. For me, the man of the match in this game is Emirhan. Because that moment that he clears that ball off the line, that's the game changer.
Of course,
because if that ball goes in, I think we lose this game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think so.
And Emirhan, that save, that heroic save, which it really, really was. And they said something interesting in the post-game show where I think it was Güntekin and I, or one of the analysts at the panel, said that's a clearance only a left-footed central defender can make, because he cleared it with his left foot. And I think he's right. I think he's right.
Well, yeah, because he swings it around the line, which kind of keeps it out. Yeah.
So for me, Emirhan is the man of the match, and I didn't really feel like nobody other than Rashica, and I didn't quite like Musrati's first half performance. He looked a little sluggish, but I definitely think he picked it up in the second half. I didn't really think that there was anyone who was terrible, but I also didn't really think anyone was good. Like really good.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
It was just
Sario Chan, for example. I don't think Sari was good at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sally, the bravado he showed the previous game, where he was, daring to dribble and then try to find a true ball and like taking some risks. He wasn't doing that at all. I kind of felt like he was playing it safe in this game, and didn't come off too well because of that. Because I think what makes Sally valuable is when he does.
So things.
Yeah, when he does take chances. But of course, you know, in a match like this, if you try to dribble someone like Fred, for example, or whatever, and you fail and he steals the ball and they counter, it's dangerous. So I kind of understand it. I think a bigger player does take those risks. Like Rafa consistently took those risks. I didn't think Rafa was great, but I mean, it was Rafa, you know, Rafa was Rafa. He played this match. I just think Rafa, we're not going to be able to see his true potential really until he gets surrounded by better players. I just feel like right now we're limiting Rafa because he's like the only guy on that level at the moment. He should have scored, of course. Yeah. We have to say that as well.
Yeah, the one-on-one, that was rough. But one thing I'll say about Sally that look, I've always been fairly skeptical, and people are like, oh, you know, Sally needs to play, and I've always kind of said, you know, Sally's not gonna like salvage our season. But I will say this. I noticed Cheeto make a few runs like when Sally had the ball, and I think just the idea that you know you have a guy who can kind of ping him up and get the ball over the defense, like suddenly you saw Cheeto making runs that he hadn't been making previously, and I think it's just the awareness that he knows he has a guy with that capability. I wonder if Sally speaks a little Italian still. From
he does. Yeah.
Adventure there.
Yeah, he speaks.
Because it seemed like there was some communication that was going pretty well there, and I think Sally just didn't have a great day, and he wasn't getting those passes off, and you know he was a little sort of step slow. But you know that's gonna happen.
That's just sad. That's Sarri all over, man. Like he'll play good games and then he'll ghost for a few games and then get injured or something like that. You know that's kind of him. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. Like I still think he should have played more under Gio because he was getting the very limited minutes off the bench. He was always making a difference. So he should have been at least probably getting like 20 minutes a game, 25 minutes a game under Gio. Wasn't getting that even. Should he be a starter for Beşiktaş in an ideal situation? I don't think so.
Ideally not, right? And of course, we should probably look at the lineups first, I suppose. But yeah, in that regard, the only reason he was able to play is because they slid Rafa out to the wing, right, which sort of freed up a place in the midfield for Sally.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you know, it was kind of an interesting game. Not one to get excited about. Like during most of the match, I think you had a pit in the bottom of your stomach, and you kind of were expecting the worst. But then suddenly that goal was scored, and I feel like I'm sure it was probably the same for you guys. But suddenly it's like, okay, wait a minute, like, we could actually get a result here somehow. I had the feeling
it was going towards a 0-0 actually.
Yeah, me too.
Because I don't know, like Fener, the first half, I really had the feeling that they were gonna win this, but second half. Like, they started off well with that chance for Dzeko, but after that, I don't really remember all that much. Then he took Sam Maximin off, and I felt like he was the most dangerous guy. He was causing us the most problems, and I don't even remember who he put on after, but I feel like we didn't get in a lot of trouble afterwards. By the way, shall we get to some of the comments already? Because last week we got the request to do that a little bit in between.
Yeah, and they're topical. They're topical also. So yeah, we got lucky. And Grey Wolf continued. In my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I thought Gedson's yellow cards were bullshit. Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely right. Like it was one of the few occasions where a guy kicks a ball and gets sent out of game, and you totally sympathize with him. Like although it's kind of a stupid thing you shouldn't do.
He didn't kick a ball though.
Isn't that what he got sent out for at the end?
So. The first yellow was supposedly a handball that I could not find. I couldn't.
Yeah, that was nonsense.
I didn't.
Both yellows were nonsense.
Yeah, the first one was a supposed handball. I didn't see it. I don't know. Let us know in the comments if you saw it. Was it a correct decision? Did he handle it? Because I didn't see it. I watched.
No, it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, but even did he handle it though? Did he?
I think he did touch his hand, but like it wasn't. It was very clearly not intentional.
Okay. So that's
like he was trying to put his hand on the opponent, and then the ball off his hand.
So that's a harsh one. But then the second one is right after the chance for the one where Mucci is very right at the end. Mucci, the only thing Mucci has to do is square it to Gedson and then tap into the empty net, but he decides to go for glory. And then Gedson, instead of like sulking and gesticulating at Mucci, he actually runs off like a pit bull and wins the ball back cleanly. Yeah. And then he gets a foul gets called against him, and he complains and he gets sent off. And I think
Okay, so yeah, so he did get sent off for.
Yeah, he got sent.
voicing
Well,
his
according
opinion.
to Guntekin and I, afterwards he got sent off for complaining. During the match, I was under the impression he got sent off for a foul, which wasn't the foul. Regardless, though,
Either way, it's
To
ridiculous.
be
I
honest,
think in a match where you, as the referee, set the standard in the first 30 minutes that a guy turning around and flagrantly pushing someone else, like aggressively, is not a yellow card. I don't think you can justify sending someone off for minor dissent. Like that is to me that is he shouldn't get a match for the next 3 weeks. Other than that, I think he had a.
this ref was horrible.
I think he had a relatively good game. He allowed to play. He didn't call too many fouls. I thought he didn't give easy yellows. But that, I mean, the 1 for St. Maximin, how can you not give that? The guy, I don't know what Svensson's doing. Maybe he's pulling his shirt. That, give Svensson a yellow card for pulling his shirt then. But he turns around and he just pushes him. That is always yellow. And you set the standard, okay, I'm not gonna be giving out yellows left and right here, and he didn't. But we finished the match with 2 yellows, they finished the match with 1, and their only yellow card comes in minute 92 for Džiku for a professional foul. And Džiku is somebody who probably should have had a yellow card already at that point as well.
And let me finish that comment real quick before I even add more, but so Grey will finish that thought with, at the same time, the Fener player number 9 should have seen at least 4 yellow. It doesn't mean Dzeko should have seen at least 4 yellow cards, especially the foul against Rafa. And so, like,
I think he means
sort of
Džiku,
piggyback on that
number
thought.
6, I think.
I assume. But my problem with even giving the ref a kind of like general good grade for his performance for like letting play on is that I feel like I can't give a ref a pass when they're as inconsistent as he was, right? If you're going to make rules, they have to be sort of applied evenly across the board. And that was my biggest frustration with him, is that like I feel like you'd see a foul committed by them and it wouldn't get called, and then it would be called on our end. Or a foul would be called on their end, and on our end it'd be a yellow card. So I just felt like there was kind of 2 standards of justice at work here. At times, and you're right, there were large phases where it seemed everything was kind of going smoothly, but just there were times when it felt like his thumb was being applied to the match. I kind of had the feeling that
if there would have been like a penalty situation for us, I don't think he would have given it. I'll put it that way. I kind of feel like he was like it was like a game he wasn't calling it 50-50. He was calling it maybe 55-45 in their favor, but I also feel like he wasn't really willing to make like any big decisions other than sending off Gedson. That was apparently easy. I thought he was a little bit of a dick, honestly. But
Džiku should have always been sent off.
Yeah.
He had 3 yellow card positions that weren't given a yellow card for. He had another yellow card with like outside of them, so he had like 4 yellow card positions and he only got 1 yellow card. And one of them was really bad. Like he's actually like choking Emirhan Topçu.
Yeah, I saw that one. That was crazy.
Yeah,
and it was like a wrestling move.
Shown. So Džiku should have always been sent off. I think the referee, to be honest, wasn't good at all. I think he gave all the great decisions in favour of Fenerbahçe. There was clear manipulation by the part of Jose Mourinho. I think he was always talking about how much he likes this referee. And I think
I don't know if you noticed, but he was also sitting next to like one of the line judges, and he just kept talking to him like the whole game.
Yeah, at a certain point there was, I don't even remember what the position was, but he started talking to like the fourth official, and it definitely did feel like these refs were allowing themselves to be, it's the great Jose Mourinho kind of thing,
the special one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Jose Mourinho even said after the game the ref had a great game, but I didn't think so at all.
Well, for them, I think he did everything he could, really. I mean, for example, the free kick for Tadic. Yeah,
that it was given a handball. That was never a fucking handball. I can't remember what player of ours it was. It might have been Nashika, but the ball it went from body to arm.
Oh yeah, that was on the wing, the cross, right?
when it goes body to arm, that's not a handball. But he gives it a handball, and see that free kick with Tadic at the bar.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have even happened.
No, wasn't that the one that he gave after the Gedson yellow? I think that was that. There was one. A handball on Rasicka, but that was like from a cross on the left-hand side, I think.
Actually, maybe. Yeah. In fact, that's right. I think they got a heading opportunity off that, and that's why.
Yeah, Jiku headed it, I think, on that one.
Right.
That's
the one.
It wide.
Yeah. I know. I remember it resulted in something quite big. So that was another bad decision.
Yeah.
And then Jiku should have been always sent off. Gedson should have been sent off.
That's ridiculous. That the fact that Gedson gets I think that is so typical for Fenerbahce games. I don't know how we always manage to win these matches because we somehow always manage to get when's the last time we got a red card against Fener where you thought, yeah, that's a red? It's always kind of like these shitty easy double yellows.
Yeah.
Like Laren, remember that one? That was so fucking bullshit.
Probably just last season.
Oh my god, the arm. He got punished for being taller than his defender.
Even last season, the one for Musrati, I've seen things this season that have gotten off with far against Gustepe. Maximin had a tackle against Gustepe that was far worse than Musrati's in the derby, and he doesn't even they don't even send him off. So it's the standard for red cards is very I feel like the Musrati one, yeah, it's a red. I can live with that, but then you need to be consistent, and I don't think the bar is set to a certain level. I don't think that's a red card in Turkish football. 60-70% of the time. I think if that's reversed, if that's Fener or Gala, I don't think that's a red, and that's the problem. You need to be. It's
just as you said. It's the consistent application, man. If we know what the rules are and we see something, we can kind of accept it. But if it varies game to game, even with the same refs out there, that's when it's just sort of unprofessional.
With the Van Persie era, I remember a derby where I think he stood on I think it was Ozhan's Achilles twice or 3 times in a game. Didn't even get a yellow card. Okay. I know that's before VAR, but still.
Yeah, which was
But
I mean, not that VAR has been perfect, but at least it prevents some.
We always get cheap yellows, or they get a cheap penalty, something like that. The 3-4 a couple of years ago, they got some bullshit penalty in the last minute to try and shoehorn them back in the game. It's always something like that.
Yeah. All right, back to the comments. Grey Wolf said Mert had good saves along with the posts. The posts had good saves. I guess he means. I mean, Mert. We got the full Mert experience in this game, as Khan had already mentioned, right? He basically gave them a goal once, and then he took away a few. Especially there was a huge save at the end, which was great.
Yeah, it's a great save.
But it's that roller coaster ride of the Mert experience.
With Mert, I was very nervous because there were sections of the games where they pressed us back and we were passing it back to Mert, and we were we weren't really finding the footballing solution, and I was getting Ajax flashbacks. I thought he was gonna fuck it and give away the ball, and we could see the stupid goal or something. You always kind of have that with Mert, I feel.
Grey Wolf continues, I'm not sure what it is, but I believe for the whole league, the playing quality has drastically gone down. I did not understand why Fener goalkeeper was wasting time when it was 0-0. Continues, for some reason, Beşiktaş can't seem to get that final through pass. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that for the whole season. Under Gio, it was even more glaring of an issue somehow. And I don't know what to make of it. I mean, obviously the key factor is personnel, that we don't have maybe some of the players you need to put those final passes through. But I mean, there's definitely something else off as well. I mean, you've seen with Serdar Topraktepe, there's already more initiative going forward, which you can't quite explain.
Yeah, but he's also giving a lot of chances to players that weren't getting chances at all before. And
maybe it's the will to perform.
Gio obviously was working under very difficult circumstances behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think you can ignore the fact that he really did a poor job at utilizing his squad. That is that is a massive mistake I think he made. Like, he didn't use Sali at all. He didn't use Ox. Granted, maybe Ox wasn't completely voluntary because he did get injured and stuff like that. But like, Jan Kilic, I'm not a fan. But you could have used him more. You could have tried him more. Tried to get him into the flow. Maybe if you give him playing time. If you remember Barishal per Yilmaz when he was making his debut for Galatasaray, like the first season or even the first 2 seasons, like he didn't look like a special player at all. And now he's looking like, I still don't think he's a special player, but now he's looking like a starter quality player at least. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Jan Kilic could grow out to be something like that. I don't think so, but you never know.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I should buy a Kazakhstan flag just so I don't have to say it. But it's worth noting every single guy who hadn't played previously, like throughout the season, came in and stood the test.
Yeah, I think that's particularly damning for Gio, though. The fact that Sali comes in, puts in a good performance, not necessarily this game, but like overall, like he's come in, he added something. Yeah. Ox has come in and given us,
Ox.
And then Bakhtiar yesterday, like when in the derby, when Tayyip was coming off, I was like, oh fuck, do we even have anyone on the bench? Najib is injured, Alista is injured, Felix is injured, and then somebody was saying, oh, he's gonna put Onur Bulut at central defender, and I was like, oh my god, imagine that. And then I saw Bakhtiar, and I was like, that's right, we still have Bakhtiar. I had forgotten completely about him. And
he came on last week, to be fair. He came on last week as well.
Yeah, he did. But I thought he came on in this game and he was flawless.
Yeah, he was great. He has like a head of iron, doesn't he? Did you guys notice that? Whenever there was a ball kind of coming into our box high, he would send that thing out. And it was like, damn, did he just do that with his head?
He's good in the air, man. He's good in the air.
Stuff he sent right in front of like one of the Fenerbahçe players' foot. Did you see that?
Yeah. He's a warrior. In Belgium we have a saying like he'll put his head in front of it. That's exactly what that means. Like he doesn't care. He'll put his he doesn't like the studs can go right to his face. He doesn't give like he'll sacrifice that. And I think that's something that Bakhtiar, I mean, at central defender, that's what makes him good.
Yeah. And it's worth remembering that like there was one period of the Fernando Santos era which was like slightly redeeming, and it was because it looked like we'd figured out how to defend, which was his strength supposedly, and it was literally Bakhtiar and Tayyip Talha who had sort of been manning that back line during that stretch. So yeah, I mean, food for thought. We've always talked about his value as a utility guy who can come in and do a lot of things.
There's people now talking about that we might need a central defender because of these injuries, and it's like, first of all, I mean, I don't think you need to transfer a central defender because you have injuries. I mean, we have Emirhan, we have Tayyip Talha, we have Gabriel Paulista, we have Udukai, and that's already 5. 4? I can't count. And then you have Nejib, that's 5. And then you have Bakhtiar, that's 6. Now, obviously, a bunch of these guys are out. I get that. But, like, unless you're going to sell Bakhtiar, and look, if a Russian Cup comes in and offers, I think last season we saw that he's quite capable.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that statistically he put up a monster season in Russia as a central defender, which had given me hope initially that might be what he was coming in to do for us. And then it turned out we saw him for his national side playing in attacking position. And it was
I think it was Ceska who he played for. Like, he played everything, right? Like, he was playing the latter time as a central defender due to injuries, I think. But he played like left back, he played right back, he played left wing, right wing, number 10, central defender.
Yeah.
Like, he's
But I remember he'd had some like just crazy numbers as like with his duels, his percentage and aerial duels. He was just like wrecking it. And granted, like the Russian league has taken a few steps backwards lately, but anyway, I mean, I fully agree. I think we have to.
There's a reason why.
If you have a guy like that as your 5th or 6th central defender, you definitely don't need to keep shopping for more. Especially when we have such huge holes elsewhere in the squad.
But there's a reason, Sinan, why we paid $4.5 million for him, and this summer there were Russian clubs lining up to buy him. For supposedly $7.5 million. Like, there's a reason why they aren't just like, oh, you know what? I mean, Beşiktaş don't really like him that much. Let's lowball them. No, they were coming in with a serious offer, and giving us actually more than we ended up paying for him. So,
That's right. And we all have to remember that it's because of him that Gedson stuck around and has had this huge season for us. He's gonna earn us a lot more money now.
Yeah, that's gonna and a pair of eyebrows.
I forgot about that. That's great. Back to the comments. Ohen. Is this a new name, by the way? Ohen?
I think so.
Welcome, Ohen. We love to see that.
Reminds me of the striker we used to have, Ohen.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm trying to remember who that was.
I don't remember his first name, but he was like he was only there for like a season, like 1999
was he like Nigerian?
Or something. Ohen, Nigerian, I think.
Yeah, I think he was Nigerian. Anyway, welcome, Ohen. It's great to see new faces around here. And Ohen says you can see the difference between the amount of effort they put into the Fener match versus other matches in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, I mean, and of course it's a derby. You expect to see that to some extent, but
I don't know if I
mean, they've been paid.
I don't know if I agree with it.
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like everyone's saying this now, like, oh, you know, I mean, they got paid, now they play, but like this game could have just as easily appointments, and this is just one of those matches where the details went our way, and I think we've had matches in November where the details didn't go our way. Some of them, of course,
plenty of those.
Yeah, like the Göztepe game, that's more than a couple of details, but like, you know, there's a couple of games in there that we, you know, the Başakşehir game, for example, or the Hatay game. I mean, like those are matches you on another day, maybe you win them, and then, you know, I didn't think that the effort from the players was much higher. I mean, like I've been saying this for weeks, I don't see a lack of effort from guys like Svensson, Gedson, Rafa. You know, like those guys are putting in the same performances now than they have been. Maybe a guy like Masuaku, though. Maybe, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say that Masuaku is the one that sort of stands out. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And I think as we've sort of talked about a little bit already, the fact that there's all these guys who hadn't been playing at all, that was huge. Because they're the ones who brought more energy, but like they have every reason to, right? They're trying to come in and establish themselves in a team.
Yeah.
So, which is probably why they should have been playing earlier in the season, but whatever.
Ertan Sözgün had a quote on that today on Orta Çizgi, and he said that one of the first things Serdar did was tell the players, you know, that haven't been playing much, like, you know, you're important as well, you're all part of the team, and like really involving them and making them feel like they're part of the team. And that's one of my biggest gripes with Gio's period as our coach, is that, like I said, you know, we had a 13, 14, 15 man squad, and that's it. Like, he didn't use other players. And now suddenly we've gone from like a 14 man squad to like an 18 man squad or something. And that makes a big difference, especially in a marathon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, I've kind of been saying that like Gio was kind of harshly done by because of the issues in the club. And
of course, you know.
I think that is definitely a very, very valid criticism, though, that he didn't utilise his squad properly. Mm-hmm. And I think Serdar Topraktepe has done a very good job at like reintroducing the guys back in, like your Tai Talhas, your Oxlade-Chamberlains, Sarri-Ochan, who did get some minutes.
And he did that last season too. Like he's the one who gave Semi a proper chance. Like everyone's talking, oh yeah, but Şenol Güneş gave Semi's debut, and I know even Semi speaks highly of Şenol, and he did get injured, but like he was back, you know, utilized Bakhtiar more and better probably, you know, and there's probably other players who are escaping me right now, but yeah, Serdar did do that. And
there's one thing I want to say though, is like on social media, Serdar Topraktepe is getting made out as this tactical genius that should take for the rest of the season. Like that game there's no tactical genius in that.
No.
Wait.
The only thing I will say, Cartel, is I agree he's not a tactical genius, but we might want him to stick around for the season just insofar as I don't know who else we can bring in.
If you don't have a better option, then of course, you know, like we shouldn't be hiring a coach just to hire a coach, because that's what we did with Fernando Santos. We hired a coach to hire a coach.
He needs to be the right guy, but I'm very, very worried that if we continue with Serdar Topraktepe, he's going to end up like Under Caravaglia 2.0. That's what I'm worried about. Look at the league last season. He was in charge for quite a lot of games, and that second stint. Okay, maybe you could argue he was fully focused on the cup and didn't really care about the league, but the league performance wasn't good at all.
It was a lot of draws mainly. I think he only lost like 1 or 2 matches in the league, like a derby, I guess, and like the Kasımpaşa game or something.
It's still not good enough.
No, of course it wasn't good enough, but. Like, I think we need to make sure that whoever's that next hire either needs to be a really good short-term hire, like, Sergen perhaps.
I've actually got a name in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
In our group chat. This might
Oh
get
yeah, I'm gonna give him the camera for this one, boys.
Thinking about our current situation as a club. I don't think we can get a foreigner that's going to be what we want. So I think if you're to blend like being a foreigner and a Turk at the same time, although this guy's probably as Turkish as it gets, but because of his playing experience, he does have that tactical influence from Europe.
Yeah,
I think we could. Arda Turan would be worth a punt. I think he could.
Whoa!
Oh yeah, see, I missed out
doing
on
a
that hot take, I think.
Oh, yeah,
He
it's
shared
new.
that in the community yet. He tested the waters first elsewhere.
Yeah. He's done a very, very, very good job with Eyüpspor, doing a very good job. To be honest, outplayed us. They were the better team against us. We got very lucky when we beat them. He got a point off of Galatasaray. Overall, in the standings are doing well. He's talking about how he wants to blend like the Barcelona and Atletico Madrid play style together, and how he's been heavily influenced from his time in Spain, and he's got that Fatih Terim kind of motivational stuff about him as well. Like Eyüpspor regularly will post his changing room speeches on YouTube because the guy's so good at like riling the team up. Like he always talks about like, I think it's like chasing the dream. I think that's his like catchphrase or something like that. Well, I think it's something along those lines like that. He's got a catchphrase that he uses in all his speeches, man. Like,
what's the dream that Eyüpspor are chasing, I wonder?
I don't know,
European
man.
football, or, I mean, I don't know. It could be, right? Like, that would be a big accomplishment.
Last year, for example, clearly.
See, we have Kartalım yapma ya, Atılcan. One of our Patreons just chimed in there.
This is what I want to say though. Like Arda Turan has always been very respectful of Beşiktaş.
I was gonna suggest that. I remember there was a time when we might have snatched him up, and there was talk of him respecting us.
There's a photo of him with the black 14-15 Beşiktaş top with Süleyman Seba''s name on the back. But when he was like a pundit at one of our European games, that like he done the Kartal pençesi to the crowd, and then also he sang "Gücüne güç katmaya geldik" while playing for Başakşehir. I'm sure there's like a video of him saying that.
I wonder if he's one of those guys that was a Beşiktaş fan as a kid and then like ended up in the Galatasaray academy, and obviously then.
I don't think so, because he does say like Galatasaray or ilk göz ağrım, which means basically like the first thing he loved was like Galatasaray.
He might have said that. He might have had reason.
Where does that?
But I think he does have a respect for Beşiktaş, and there's clearly something's happened with Süleyman Seba, because he always talks about how much respect he has for Süleyman Seba. So maybe he spoke to him when he was a kid or something, or just as he was coming through the ranks, maybe spoke to him. But yeah, like he's a Galatasaray fan. Is it ideal? Of course it's not. But we saw last week this guy's not going to lie down to Galatasaray.
I personally don't think that matters all that much. I mean, like if Okan Buruk wouldn't have gone to Galatasaray, I would have taken him as a coach.
But he played for.
You want to hear my crazy take since we're doing crazy takes? No offense, Kartal.
I don't think his take is that crazy. It's controversial. It's just
yeah. That's what, mine too. It's actually not going to be crazy. Maybe I used the wrong word. Slaven Bilic.
Bring back Under Caravaglia.
No, I was going to say Slaven Bilic. I would take Slaven Bilic back. He'd probably come and do a job for
a short
on a 6 months plus.
maybe on like a 1.5 year contract.
Like 6 months with
6
an
months
option
with
for an
an
extension.
option.
if
Yeah,
it goes
exactly.
well.
That that you can see what happens in May during the elections. Of course, Slaven Bilic is not the coach he once was. He also lost a big part of his technical staff, which was Edin Terzic. So
Exactly.
the big quick.
I think that's the
Yeah. So
See, Terzic left in his second season at West Ham, and that's what went downhill, his coaching career. I think he done an okay job at like West Brom after that at the start, but the coaching career's not been quite the same since Edin Terzic left.
Well, maybe Terzic can come on as his assistant again.
that's gonna happen. I mean, maybe Terzic just like, this thing at Dortmund, it didn't really work out. I want to take a little break and I'll go chill in Istanbul.
Yeah,
for
refresh.
18 months, and I don't think that.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you take that step to the head coach position, I don't think
you don't go back.
back.
Especially-
Unless he was like, "I'll come be your assistant," like with the idea of taking on the job when you're done.
I mean, that'd never,
But I don't know if we want that. So
it would never happen.
Anyway.
He's a Champions League finalist coach. He's never going to be a number 2 again.
Yeah. No, maybe we just
Let's
get.
not
Terzic
let's
then.
not
No,
get
okay. Let's not. do
let's
that.
not get stuck up on that kind of stuff, because Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is a Europa League finalist coach as well. It's like
that didn't go very well.
done differently.
So Grey Wolf asks, this is a good question for us to move on to. We haven't even done like the lineup or stats or anything yet. But anyway, Grey Wolf asks, do you think Chamberlain will get more playing time?
Yes.
Definitely.
I would say so.
I mean,
But I
obviously
think-
not on Thursday. He's not on the UEFA list, so he can't play against Bodo Glimt, but he will play on the weekend most likely against Adana Demir.
I think Chamberlain should always be the 12th man. It should never be a starter. Just based.
Yeah, you don't want to risk him for injury, but yeah. I like that logic. It's worth noting that we now have an ox and a moose in the potential lineup. So 2 large animals at our disposal. Anyway,
Let's hope
Moving
hope
on.
they don't start humping in the middle of the park.
or whatever else they do. That I don't know much about oxen. The
Does that
behavior
even
of oxen.
work? I mean, I don't know either. But
I don't know. I know moose can be pretty crazy. Like if you're in Canada, they can just start like running down the road, and you're like done. They're pretty dangerous, supposedly. Anyway, so then we have Ohen back. Not sure one can analyze that in football terms. I think he's talking about like the effort. The players getting their paychecks made a huge difference. He continues. Perhaps the other difference is that Beşiktaş is at its best in the transition game, as even Mourinho indicated, when we do not have to try to break down a defense. So it does tend to do better versus teams like. We tend to do better against teams like Galatasaray and Fener when we do not need to dominate the ball and we can sit back a little.
Yeah, but how many good transitions did we have in this game?
I think we kind of saved them all till the end, man.
Exactly. We had the one really good one in the first half, and that's it. And then I don't think.
Then we had that garbage time one with Mucci where he had the one-on-one.
At the end, one of them. This is like the Rafa Mucci change. Like obviously, Sinan, you in the group chat said fatigue very well could be the reason. But see that one where Mucci gets tackled. I think if that's Rafa, he's going to go.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, although he missed the one-on-one. That was
He
similar earlier.
miss it, but he's getting to go. He's not getting tackled.
Yeah.
I do think that on that last position, I think Rafa sees Gedson and passes it to Gedson there.
Oh, yeah. That's
If he keeps Rafa in, maybe we win 3-0. Just saying.
I mean, he did take Rafa off really late, though,
fine.
didn't he? Wasn't it
fine.
like minute 88 or something?
Yeah.
When did he take Rafa off?
Yeah, man.
His subs were pretty late in general. Actually, I don't think he made any subs till the 70th minute.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem, man. Like, see, it's that when it's that late. Like, what's the point when you're that? It's like that late already.
What do you mean?
Like,
Although we scored like
Because you want
right?
because you want fresh legs for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes.
yeah, but see the type of game it is, man. We're always going to catch them in the counter, and Rafa's your biggest counter threat. So why would you take off your biggest counter threat?
I mean, my assumption at the
Rafa
time was
plays a
fatigue.
lot. Like he plays every
And
game.
He's such a runner.
He hasn't missed
Yeah.
a single match. Like you have to alleviate him a little bit from time to time, man. Like, you can't have him play 90 minutes every match. I think,
I think we win 2-0, man. At least if he stays on. That's my guess.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think we should always win this game 2-0 at the end there. Like, Mucci should always be squaring that for Gedson. That's an easy tap-in. You know, sometimes you have situations where it's more prudent to go for glory, but when the goalkeeper's rushing out and there's a guy, like, like it was a fairly simple pass, and that's an easy tap-in. Like, you should always be squaring that. And I think that's also part of the problem with Mucci, where, you know, I think if he isn't playing for a place in the first 11, a player, you know, I remember years and years ago with Jermaine Lens, I think when he was playing for Fener, he had so many layoff assists where he just squared it to a striker and they tapped it in. And when he came to us, you know, obviously Chanel like immediately like made it clear to him, like, you're not number one, you're like number 3 off the bench or whatever. And you see that it has an impact on footballers. Like, they want to play, they instead of doing what they normally would do, perhaps. I'm not saying that Mucci, I think Mucci is maybe a more selfish player in general, but like definitely for Lens that wasn't the case. I think his normal action would be square that, easy tap and goal, assist. But because you're under pressure, because you feel like you need to earn your place, you need to earn the respect of maybe the coach, of the fans, or whatever, you kind of overextend yourself and you do stuff differently than you normally would. You stop playing your own game, and then you start shooting instead of passing, even though you know you should be passing. And
it's worth noting that although Mucci hadn't played particularly well before his injury, the redeeming quality of his was that he was putting in the occasional goal, right? I think he had 3 in a row. So I think he probably felt like, you know what, I'll put one in the back of the net, and that'll kind of get me more chances. Like you're saying, I think that's pretty astute. Continuing on, we have Ridvan Devrim, another new name.
Welcome, Ridvan.
Welcome, Ridvan. He wrote another message, but I didn't see it. It's not in the YouTube chat.
He wrote one saying that, like, why would you do a live stream for 8 people?
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
No,
the other one was saying that we should read the comments, which we're doing just now. So
is this Yorumlare Okuyun?
That's me. Yeah, he's saying read the comments. Yeah.
Okay, so coming in hot, Ridvan, with the criticism. Okay, fair enough. We have more people in the group chat now, if you're curious. Anyway, Ohan continues on next. This ref was really good at sabotaging Beşiktaş in a subtle way, unlike Arda Kardeş in the Galatasaray game, who killed Beşiktaş in a brazenly obvious way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about that, the sort of
sneakily, like less conspicuous. Although I think it also just kind of depends on whether you're given the opportunities or not. You know, some of those free kicks that Fenerbahçe got, like if they score off of one of those, then afterwards we're all talking about how he killed us. Now he didn't because they didn't score off of it. But like that's the thing with Oxlade-Chamberlain in the Galatasaray derby. Is that they scored off of those free kicks, and then, you know, we talk about he killed us. But yeah, sometimes you need to give them or you not need to give them the opportunity. But like for example here, I think if there was a penalty position, you know, I don't think he would have hesitated either to point to the spot for Fener. You know, like that's just one of those things. Like. I you know, they always say a referee in a derby, especially you know, depending on who's playing at home, they'll be leaning more towards that side. I feel like that's never true for us. Like, it's never true. For Fener and Galatasaray, they always get that home field advantage from the refs, but we never get that. Like, that seems to be exclusive to those two in Turkey.
So, next up was Attilcan Malak, who a fan favorite, podcast.
A Black Eagle VIP.
Yeah, a VIP gentleman. He says exactly. Thinning down the. So this is about how we were talking about Gio kind of sabotaged himself by not playing certain guys. He said exactly. Thinning down the squad by choice from Gio looks really bad on his part. We had more options without even giving it a chance. I completely forgot we still have Onana.
Yeah. I mean, but granted, I mean, Onana is really somebody I don't really want to see I just want to see him.
Maybe as our seventh.
I want to see him get sold in January, preferably.
Or at least loan.
Realistically, is probably loan, but I prefer like just sell him. Like cut your losses if we can get our money back or close to our money back. I think you cut your losses. You can't forget as well. He has like I think he's gonna be difficult to get your money back for because of his wages. How topical are the current comments? Should we get to the lineup and stuff like that first, and then we can get back into the comments?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead.
All right, let's have a look at the. Sorry, that was the statistics. Let's have a quick look at this lineup. Yeah, I mean, was it the expected lineup, guys? Were you surprised by this lineup from Sedat Toprak Tepe?
Maybe just the fact that Rafa was on the wing, I guess. That was not necessarily expected, but let's go through it. So first of all, we have Mert Gunak in goal with Tayyip Talha and Emirhan up ahead of him on our back line, with Masuaku on the left flank and Jonas Svensson on the right. Oh, I should have done Fener first, whatever. Al Musrati and Salih Utan were in the back of our midfield with Gedson Fernandes placed ahead of them, which was also perhaps a little surprising. I might have expected Salih to play in the advanced role over Gedson. And then Rashida on the right side, Rafa Silva on the left, and Ciro Immobile up top. For our rivals, of course, we have Livakovic in goal, Samet Akaydin, and Djiku on their back line with
Samet was good. I thought he had a really good game.
He was. I know. I didn't realize he was starting, and so I saw I noticed he tackles later on in the game, and I thought maybe he'd been subbed on, but no, I guess he played the whole game.
There was one really good diagonal pass he made. I said I didn't know he could do that, man. Damn it.
And then you have Kostic on their left flank, defensive flank, with Mert Mulder opposite him on the right side. Fred and Sofian Amrabat in their midfield behind Dushko Tadic with ASM, Alain Saint-Maximin, opposite Oz Aydin. All of them behind, of course, the old-timer Edin Dzeko, who, damn near put a dagger in our hearts late, but we survived.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't put it away.
Let's delve into these statistics as well, and then we can just talk further.
Yeah, let's get this out of the way. Yeah. So ball possession, interestingly, was quite even. 51 to 49% in our rivals' favor. They had a solid 1 XG. We had a 0.98, so very, very even there. We each had 12 shots, which is also obviously quite even. We had 5 on target. They only had 2 on target. However, and this is sort of what Khan had been alluding to, they had 5 big chances, and we only had 1, which we missed. They missed all 5.
I think that's unfair, though.
I'm surprised we only have 1. Yeah, because definitely Mucci was 1-on-1.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
Rafa.
The Mucci one is a big chance for sure. The Rafa one is a big chance for sure, and then right after you have the Ciro one, so that's 3 big chances in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you could argue, okay, one of them is from the same position, so you could argue it only counts for 1 big chance, but the Mucci one is definitely a big chance, and the Rafa one as well, so should be 2.
See, the thing is, boys, although the number of the big chances indicates that they were dominant, but if you look at XG, there's only 0.02 difference.
Yeah.
So that proves that.
If anything, I think
you could argue that a draw was a fair result going off that XG.
Yeah, but I think that's also probably because our Rafa/Ciro chance probably is like half our XG.
Yeah, no, it's and obviously because they came in the same phase of play as well, you can't really count that as 2 separate positions.
Yeah, but only more advanced XG models don't do that though, and I don't know if Fault Mobs is that advanced. I don't know.
I will say, given the discrepancy in terms of big chances attributed to us, I think we can agree that my theory that the FOTMob statistician was a Galatasaray guy is not correct. He must be a Fener guy.
Jose Mourinho did comment after the game that we had 1.5 chances. He's probably not wrong. Maybe a little harsh, but yeah. I mean,
well, again, there's 2
we'll
one-on-one.
We'll talk about our goal in a second, but let's continue with these statistics.
Yeah, that was wild. So yeah, continuing on. So they completed more passes than us, which makes some degree of sense. They had slightly more of the ball. They completed 342 passes to our 308. They completed them at a 79% clip to our 74%. So neither side was especially proficient with the ball. I mean, it was a sloppy game, which I think everyone's basically agreed to at this point. I mean, it was just not played very well by either side. They committed 14 fouls to our 12. But we had 9. Sorry, I'm stealing your stat here, Cartel, but it's tied directly to this. We had 9 yellow cards to their 3, despite them committing 2 more fouls. Which
interesting.
I think
that's wrong. Sorry. No, that's wrong.
Yeah, 9 seems a little stiff, right?
That's not the right. That's not the right one. Give me a second. That is from last week's game. I flipped it. I flipped up. Sorry. Let me get the right stats up here. No, that's not right either. Here we go. That should be. There you go. This should be correct. I'm sorry about that.
0 yellow cards? Is that right? Because
Gedson got 2 yellows, right? So that transferred into a red.
They just count that as the 1.
Yeah. But the fact that they...
I was going to say, 9 yellow cards.
Yeah, no, that was wrong. That was wrong.
But so, yeah. Anyway, moving on. So we were offsides 3 times to their 4, which actually I think interestingly sort of speaks to the way that it was going both ways for much of the game. 1 corner by us to their 3, so not a lot of activity there. Cartel, I'll pass on the duels to you.
Yeah. So duels, 57 won by us, 56 won by them. So we have got a slight advantage there. In terms of the ground duels won, 41 for us to 31 for them, which means we won 57% of them to their 43. Aerial duels won. We didn't favour so well on these. We won 16, they won 25, so they had a 61% advantage to our 39%. Successful dribbles, we completed 9, which was at a rate of 56%. So that tells you maybe that we tried like 17 dribbles the full game and completed 9. They only completed 31% of their dribbles, which was really bad. They had 4 successful dribbles, so that tells you maybe they tried 11 dribbles all game. Yellow cards, they had 1. We had none.
2.
Or 10 had 2, but it says none. But because it was 2 yellows turned into a red. Yeah, man, like Gico should have been sent off always. He had 4 yellow card positions, only carded for 1 of them.
And see, that's the problem when you try to be the lenient derby ref, because you're like not giving yellows. And then you end up sending off Gedson for 2 non-yellow cards. Essentially, it's like you can't do that. I think you can be the lenient derby ref, but then don't send off Gedson. If he doesn't send off Gedson at the end, then I would be far less critical. But I knew something like this was gonna happen as soon as he did not book Maximin for that push. I knew that we were going to get like a yellow in like 10-15 minutes time, and it was going to be ridiculous. Because now he set the bar here for yellow cards, and we were probably going to get a yellow for something that was here. Or it ended up being not even on the screen. But, that's usually how that goes. You can't not give a yellow for that. You can decide to be a lenient derby ref, but when somebody turns around and pushes someone blatantly like that, like you can't let that go. That doesn't mean you suddenly have to start giving yellows for every little foul. And I understand, maybe you want to cool down the match and you don't want this to escalate into like a pushing contest and a brawl or whatever. But still, you talk to the player, say, hey, sorry, just can't do that kind of stuff. This is a yellow card. Simple as that. But yeah, this is a 30-year-old referee. Probably, doesn't have his
needs a little more.
His FIFA hairs on his balls yet, so
I was about to say he needs a little more hair on his balls. Dirty minds. Anyway, back to the comments, shall we? So we had Ohen, who said, he was a underrated Nigerian striker from the late 90s. So we were right on that. He goes, I disagree. The effort in those games was clearly lacking. And he says the Tel Aviv game was disgraceful, for example.
Yeah.
I'd rather never think about that Tel Aviv game again.
It didn't happen. Let's not mention it anymore.
See,
If I may, yeah.
I mean, this is my huge gripe with Hussein man. Like,
That's
okay, I
not
get
fair,
it.
though, man. That's not fair.
yeah, but see, if you're going to pay it before Fenerbahçe, why not pay it before Tel Aviv? Because that game was arguably more important than this one.
He should.
If we win that
he
game,
shouldn't. He
well,
shouldn't have to be paying these wages.
Well, he has anyway. So it seems.
Yeah, because the club can't pay it apparently.
But like, if you're going to pay it, why did you not pay it before the fucking Tel Aviv game, man? Because we had to win that game. That game would have secured European knockout football for
Why
us.
is the vice president of the club being put in that position?
He shouldn't be in that position, but if he's going to do it anyway, he should have done it then.
And now
That's all I'm
he's the president though. Now he has the responsibility. It's different.
Well, before the Tel Aviv game, he was still the president of the football ASHE, of the football branch.
Do you think it would have fixed that? I don't think so, man. I think it was just. I think it was just a combination of the fact that it was in Hungary. Players clearly weren't there with their heads. Gio was checked out mentally. I think I am of the opinion that paying the players didn't make any big difference in this game either. Like I said, like this game, play it 10 times, you probably lose it 6 or 7 times.
I think Masuaku did, because Masuaku was on.
Yeah, but okay, one player. Put Emre Can Terzi on the field then. He doesn't care if he gets paid. So, I don't know. He's suspended
Continuing.
now, by the way, Masuaku, so we might get to see Emre Can Terzi on Thursday.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm very curious what he's going to do. Because, I mean...
Maybe Bakhtia.
Yeah, but Bakhtia
No, but we
already
need
has
him
to
in
play
the center.
centre-back, so... There's not a lot of choices
Oh, boy.
there.
Maybe Rashica. No. Anyway, Attiljan writes, Kartalim yapmaya. That was about this Arda business. And then Grey Wolf, so while we were talking about coaches, he laughs, he writes, Hikmet Karaman, which, I don't think so, man. Next up, Ohen, they also need to get Atiba involved as part of the technical squad. I don't know if you guys saw, but Atiba was in attendance this week for the Derby.
I don't want to.
So,
I don't want to
which was
see
kind of fun.
Atiba anywhere near any of this mess, man. I don't want to see him anywhere near this.
Yeah. Bring him in later
Let
on.
him
Yeah.
come in when shit's stable. Don't taint him with this. I don't want to see that. No.
Definitely.
Did he ever play under Bilic?
Yeah,
Of course
of course he made his debut.
Yeah, he did, right?
He was on it.
Was that?
Side.
Didn't we bring him in
Yeah,
then?
Bilic was
Yeah.
the one.
Maybe he could be Bilic's assistant. He's the new Terzic.
Yeah,
No, I'm
Bilic was the
kidding.
one who wanted Atiba.
That's what I thought,
something
yeah.
I mean, look, if these elections go, and we'll talk about this because Özcan came in the chat that Adali has officially announced his candidacy. Depending on how these elections are gonna go, and if then, for example, Bilic comes in and Atiba can be part of that, but as long as things are messy and iffy and all that, I don't want to see Atiba anywhere near this mess. I don't want him to be dragged into
Tainted.
yeah, exactly. I don't want him to be tarnished by it. So let him come in when stuff is a little bit
More settled. Yeah.
But definitely him being an assistant to Bilic would be very interesting.
Yeah, that could be fun. Attila John writes, Edin Terzic, UCL final to assistant coach at Beşiktaş. Return to your roots. Next, Özcan, as you already said, Khan, he said that Serdar Adali has officially announced his candidacy for the election at the end of the month, which, let's save that one for later. I bet we all have
Yeah, we'll
opinions on
definitely
that.
talk about that.
Hux Honcho, who I think we've seen maybe once before.
Yeah. Welcome back, Hawks. Control.
Welcome back, Hux. He says, even though Mucci should have passed Hux. That's my biggest pet peeve with my English teaching struggles. Should have. So even though Mucci should have passed it, it seems like he hesitated a little and shot a split second too late, which resulted in Livakovic closing the angle better because of it.
The Livakovic did really well coming out, and he did the same on the Rafa one. You got to give Livakovic credit.
I mean, he had a good game.
Yeah, he had a good game.
You gotta
I
say he had a
think-
good game.
And that's also worth mentioning. Like, let's talk about our goal for a second. So obviously during the live broadcast, it really wasn't clear who had scored. Was it the cross that went in straight away, or did Chiro get a touch on it? Chiro celebrated it like he scored for sure. I really wanted it to be Chiro, man. I have to be honest. Like, I think this goal.
Me too.
I think
say that.
I think it would mean more if this was Chiro's goal, because it would have given him a boost. Obviously, he's out for 2 to 3 weeks now, apparently, with edema. But like, I think for him that would have given him a massive boost. It also would have killed some of the criticism, because people had obviously with everything happening now over the last month, like, people have started to murmur a little bit about him, and I definitely think he could have used that goal. That said, whether he scores it or not, and spoiler alert, he doesn't. They showed it in super slow-mo afterwards on Marathon or whatever that's called nowadays. You could see he doesn't actually touch it. However,
Roughly close, but he certainly plays a huge role in
if
it.
he
Get going
isn't
in.
there, that's an easy
Yes.
ball for Livakovic. That's not a goal, never.
Yeah.
So whether he scores it or not,
He's crucial.
yeah,
in
he's
the goal.
crucial, exactly.
But there's a very, very nice thing as well. In terms of course, this is sports. It's not like a written show or entertainment. But it kind of, just the fact that our last win against Fenerbahçe was number 15, an English player, Nathan Redmond, was this time
Oh, how about that?
number 15, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, that's the hero. Like, in terms of, I know obviously it's stupid calling it storytelling, but like, see if you had, like, you couldn't get better long-term storytelling in like a TV show than this one. Like, your two big derby wins, your last 2 wins against one of your big opponents are both from an English number 15.
So basically, the moral of the story is if we play Fener, we got to make sure we have an Englishman with the number 15 on the rotation.
We did last year, but we lost. But Ox still scored in that as well.
Yeah.
He scored the penalty.
Yeah, he scored.
you go.
He scored in both derbies he scored against Fener and against Galatasaray last season. Against Fener was a penalty last season, but against Galatasaray was a really nice goal.
It was.
And then
It's funny, man. We were all on board the Ox train at some point early on last year, right?
if
We
he
thought he
wouldn't
could
have
really.
gotten that hamstring injury that took him out for 4 months, but like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the thing with Ox. Like, and I think the positive about Ox scoring
Maybe.
now is I think fans embraced him again. But I also think the positive could be that now maybe this could create some more interest for him in January.
Yeah, for sure.
I am still 100% of the opinion that we need to offload Ox. I think Ox
course.
is a quality player, but I don't
Yeah,
think you
agree.
cannot rely on him due to his injury proneness and his high wages. I definitely think this could be beneficial to us. And it's not just him now. We talked about Bakhtiar earlier. His stock is rising again because he's getting involved now. Now we have Ox. And Simi is going to get some opportunities in the coming weeks. Chiro is going to be out for a few games. I'm really gutted, by the way, that he's going to miss this Adana Demirspor game on the weekend, because that could have been
he could have had like a
that
hat
could have
trick.
been a good opportunity for him to do some stat padding and get a couple of goals in for his.
And not just
top
stat
scorer.
pad, but like get that confidence going again, right? Like get back into the flow of scoring
I think
regularly.
we see like a Rafa Silva show next week.
Let's hope so. I mean, I expect a show. I mean, we shouldn't expect anything.
We're
guess,
gonna be
but yeah, you know what I mean?
severely depleted. Let's hope we can field the proper team. Because imagine we miss that many players against Adana Demir and we drop points.
Oh, that'd be a new low point for the
that
season.
would be terrible.
Let me get back to these comments here. So we've got Hack Sancho. We did. Ohen then hitting the post twice. We're in relatively low XG situations. This ref is the anointed one.
Yeah, I don't. Wait, so the free kick hit the post, and what else hit the post?
The header, right? Wasn't that header that we talked about earlier?
That went
off
wide,
the
I
post?
think. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't even remember a second.
Was it just
post.
the free kick then? Yeah.
I think it was just a free kick.
Huh. I thought maybe there was a header after the post. Maybe he meant also the one where Emre Can saved it off the line, or Emirhan rather. Anyway, Ozcan steps in next, says Gio wanted to go himself after the Göztepe game. He shouldn't have stayed on for the Tel Aviv game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
maybe
so
not.
there was this thing that Samet Ayvala said in his press conference about how Fairs wasn't allowed in the room after the Göztepe game. And then apparently they told him it was a private conversation. Brad Friedel confirmed this, by the way, because he was asked about Fairs not being allowed in the room and stuff like that. And he said, oh, well, and he was like, oh, I don't remember. And then he's like, oh, yeah, well, there was this one situation after the Göztepe game where Khan and Gio were having a private conversation and they wanted me to sit in, but that was a private conversation. Maybe there Gio had told Khan or something that he wasn't feeling it.
There's Khan Shackle on his TV interview. Like everyone's been having TV interviews as of late. He said, so Khan Shackle said that Hassan Harit had already left the stadium, so Hussein Uzelhi. So Hassan Harit called Khan Shackle saying, can you go and speak to Gio? He's very angry. I think he wants to leave.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Okay. Yeah.
So it seems like...
I was going to ask, earlier I was going to ask if what you guys had heard about that rumor that he had wanted to leave before the Tel Aviv game. So thanks, Ozcan, for...
But the funny thing is, man, is like...
reminding me.
If we accept his resignation there, we don't pay him anything.
No, that's not
Like,
true,
five-
Cathal. No, that's not true.
So if he resigns himself,
No,
he
it
won't,
doesn't work like that in football. You have to pay out the contract.
even if they resign.
Yep. How many times? Abdullah Avci resigned. Still have to pay him.
I thought he was sacked.
No. Istifa. Pretty sure. It doesn't work like that in football. If you resign or not, you still have to pay. I mean, yeah.
That makes no fucking sense, man. Like, why would... If you quit the
How
job...
many
why
times? How
should
many
you-
times do coaches resign and you still have to pay them? Like, happens all the time.
That makes zero sense to me, man. Like, why would he pay out himself?
Yeah, but it's like, like if you become if you fall on your head tomorrow and you're brain dead, you're a plant, like your work is not gonna have to pay you for the rest of their life, right? They'll have to do something like they'll have to make like a contribution or something, maybe because you have like that's like insurance or whatever. But like, let's see with Vili Kavlak, for example, like his career ended and we still have to pay out his full contract as well. Like, you can't just terminate because he can't do his job anymore. Like, it's very different. I'm gonna look it up, but I'm pretty sure that if a coach, I'm gonna Google it right now while you guys keep talking about.
You could Gemini that shit.
O'Hearn seems to be on my side on this one. As far as you know, if you quit a job, like, do you get compensation if you quit yourself?
I mean, I don't know. It depends on the context and the contract, right? So I don't know if there's like a rule on this across the board, like all industries. But this is, whatever. I'm not even wading into this one. Let's get back to the comment.
I think they can't even resign, because like, you can tomorrow say to your job, you can say, I quit, and they can't really do anything about it. You'll have to give notice, but they can't do anything about it. But like, I just Googled it, and it says a football coach's contract can be terminated by mutual consent. It's like, well, I think you even, like, the football club has to accept it.
Yeah, they do, but to me, if it's the coaching side that's instigating it, like, it makes no sense that you need to pay out the rest of the contract.
EA Sports Law, what is that? I'm gonna look up what the FIFA.
Anyway, yeah. While he's looking it up, I'll go back to the comments, and then we'll come back to this. Where were we? Gio wanted to go himself. Yeah, we did that. Okay. And then Ohan said Bilic brought him in about Atiba. Yeah, and I knew that I didn't want to say it because I always like say these memories, and then I'm like a little off.
Yeah, but sometimes
I'm the old one on staff here.
Sometimes coaches will waive their compensation fees. That happens, but you can't just have a coach, like, never heard of that.
Next, Grey Wolf. I thought they changed the election to January. That's actually, guys, is the election changed to January, or are they going to do an interim
29th
election?
of December is what I didn't see anything about them changing it, but maybe I missed it.
So it's going to be an interim election, and they're going to run it again in May?
Yeah, because Hassan Arat resigned on Friday, I believe. Had he resigned on Monday, then if there would have been elections now, then it would have replaced the May elections. But because he resigned 2 days early, it wasn't a full 6 months, so we have to have double elections.
Yeah, we didn't have to, but obviously they called for an early election. Really, UGL could have just continued until May, but it was his call to have
it was his call, yeah.
Because there's been other people in the Beşiktaş community saying, "Oh, you're not an elected president, so it's not fair that you make transfers." So that's why they're having one in December, or the end of the month, I should say now.
And we've got some comments that answer maybe some of our questions here, by the way. So first of all, thought they changed the election to January. Yeah, we did that. I won't. Okay, I'm skipping that one by you, Ohen, because that's clear. We got it with as far as the post-May election stuff. Ozcan, Atiba had a meal with Kochadai, who is potentially going to be a candidate, right?
Dear. Don't get involved with him, Atiba. Don't do it, bro.
Trouble. Next up, we have Attilcan. Beşiktaş just posted a video asking the players who they think scored that goal. Ox said he asked Cheeto 3 or 4 times, and Cheeto says he scored it each time. You love the kind of camaraderie. It's part of that whole conversation that you'd imagine. But that's hilarious. So here we go with answers to your guys' questions, perhaps. Ohen says if they resign, you don't have to. I think he means pay. Ohen says Sergen resigned after he did not. Kartal is right on this one. Ohen says Attilcan says, yeah, what is a resignation in football? LOL. And then he says, if you give a 2-week notice like Klopp, you get paid. If you resign with no notice, you still get paid.
There's things like just cause. I'm not going to read all this, though. I'm trying to find when the football coach terminates the contract. Here. When a football coach unilaterally terminates the contract, the consequences will depend on whether the coach can establish that he or her had just cause for the termination. Okay. So if they would have to, they would have to prove that they had just cause. For the football coach to establish just cause, it must first be established that the club has breached its contract. So, for example, if he didn't get paid, his contractual obligations. If that is the case, the next consideration whether the club's breach of its contractual obligations is significant enough to establish just cause. Blah blah blah. The club's most important contractual obligation is to pay the football coach's wages. In this respect, it must be stressed that reduced or non-payment of wages normally will constitute a breach of the club's contractual obligations, but not necessarily represent a contractual breach that justified I'm gonna post this and then you guys can read it yourself. I'll post it in
it's fine.
I'll post that.
So
the coach needs to have just cause to be able to terminate, but obviously he would have had that given the fact that we apparently didn't pay. And the fact that he was paid a $2.5 million compensation suggests he had only received 100,000 of his 1.3 million this year. So I'm just.
Here's a fun comment, guys. One out of left field. A first-time commenter. Welcome, Josh DiSavino. And I really highly appreciate this. He goes, hey guys, love the show. I'm a Milan fan and just interested to hear your thoughts on former player Ante Rebic. I think the Milanisti all knew that he would struggle, but definitely not that much. Yeah, and I think to answer your question, Josh, we all were, I think, initially kind of hopeful, but doubtful of him being the right transfer, just given his age and injury history, right? The injury history most of all. but I think we all expected him to put in a few good shifts. And
I mean,
yeah, I mean, he didn't cover himself in glory.
whenever he played, he looked like a quality player. The problem was that he didn't seem to care all that much, and he didn't get a lot of opportunities. Had a lot of injuries. But I don't know if you remember, guys. But like, Kata will definitely remember. But Sinan, I don't know if you remember. Like, his chance creation per 90 was insane. Like
Really?
every time
I
he
didn't
came
know
on
that.
as a sub, he created at least one 100% chance.
I feel like
I do remember that.
he'd do that and then game and do absolutely nothing and not run at all.
But he'd still create the chance though.
That's the issue, man. Like the
But
guy,
he
he had
didn't.
no work ethic, was
Yeah.
very lazy, always injured, looked disinterested. But yeah, he did have. He did kind of have that ability to create chances and did do it when he got some minutes. But as I said, like he'd come on and do that, maybe create 2 chances, 3 chances maybe, and then the next game he'd get subbed off at half time because he just couldn't be arsed. Like
Yeah.
he was an absolute disaster of a signing.
If he had a good attitude, he would have been a really good signing though, because I think
I
he
think
had the ability.
Then his injury problems as well, he was
Yeah,
always injured.
he had a supposedly a chronic back injury, which kept recurring. But
And Josh just sort of followed up again. He goes, the Croatian head coach locked him out of the national team based on poor attitude. And I wish I could say that I don't understand what that's about. But surely, I think what might be worse than his injury-riddled stint with us was that he was very slow to leave the club and to sort of leave any money on the table. Which given how little he
left
performed,
some money on the table.
I think he left a. Yeah, in the end, he agreed to leave a little. But
$1 million.
yeah, I mean, it all left a bad taste, I think, and I think Beşiktaş fans' mouths, right? Like, I know nobody looks back on Rebic as a positive.
No.
I would say.
The cruel joke is that if he would have had a decent attitude, he'd be our best winger right now. Because that's our biggest deficiency this season is a lack of quality wingers. Like, we have only one real winger, Milo Tasićka, and he's like a C grade player, you know. Like, I mean,
Hard worker that occasionally is hard worker that's inconsistently can have a good performance. Like every now and then he does have a really good game, but he's always a hard worker. But
he also struggles with injuries. He's constantly playing with injections, so he's rarely fully fit.
And he lacks technique.
And he's not super fast. He's not he's not super gutsy. He's not super confident taking on his man consistently. His crossing is spotty. Like and Rebic, like he was intelligent. He had, he would always, I don't know how he did it, but he always at least managed to create a chance. But the problem was that I think one of the big issues was when he came in initially, Şenol Güneş was our coach, and Şenol Güneş clearly did not take a liking to him and
gave him coaches.
Yeah, but I think that for him, like, he checked out after, like, he came to Beşiktaş expecting he was gonna be like the big man, the star, and then he kind of didn't get treated like that, and I think that then he was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit, I'll go, I'll just sit here and collect a paycheck. Maybe it could have been different. I mean, we have to be on, like, Şenol Güneş's handling of players isn't always very good. And some players you just need to pamper. And I guess Rebic was that type of guy that you needed to cater to.
Yeah, I got that impression.
But no excuse, of course. I mean, look.
Then you could argue another coach could have got him back on side, but none of the 4 coaches after that got him back on side.
Yeah, but none of those coaches were particularly competent either, were they? So...
And then you can even argue that maybe the sort of relationship between player and club has deteriorated so much before anyone else came in.
I think that's the big issue. I think he had, like, first, I think he came in with an attitude of that he was bigger than the club, which is kind of funny because who is he? Like, it's not like he's this amazing star, right? But, like, I think he came in with that attitude of that he was too good to be there to begin with. And I think that after a while, not a very long while, I think he checked out. And now he's gone back to Italy, and he scored against Juventus last week, I saw, in the added time to equalize for Lecce. So
he's playing for a shit team, man. So
but now maybe he can be the big man. And I know Croatians like Italy, so maybe that's more his cup of tea.
To be fair, he's quite similar to Turkey in a lot of ways, man.
Yeah.
Maybe
but the Italian league is a lot more. There's more prestige in playing for Empoli than there is in the Turkish league for people from Croatia, I think, because Croatia, I think, see Italy as almost all the big Croatian players go to Italy.
Yeah.
I think there might even be some historical, like when the Venetians were kind of claiming city-states. I think they had some role in Croatia. Like there's some historical, because it is right across. Anyway,
it's like their Premier League almost.
So anyway, I will say, yeah, exactly. There are shades of Germain Lenz in how he was treated coming in from Chenol, but he's more to blame.
He's more to
than Lenz,
blame.
I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think
but
Lenz,
thank you so much, Josh.
I think with Lenz the same thing happened. It only took a lot longer. I think he could have been salvaged. And with Rebic, it kind of was like he threw in the towel after like a month, Whereas with Lenz, it kind of felt like he threw in.
It's dragged on for months.
Yeah, it took a while before he threw in the towel, but he had lost his mojo at some point rather quickly. As
exactly. Thank you so much for checking in, Josh, and feel free to check us out. And I don't know if you get to watch Beşiktaş, but we could be your Turkish club, man. Keep tuning in.
Hope you're a masochist.
Yeah, maybe we've turned the corner, kind of. Maybe.
If he was a Lazio fan, maybe just to watch Ciro. But we wouldn't be seeing.
It's all going uphill from here.
Wouldn't be seeing Ciro in the next, probably in December, unfortunately. So. I wonder if they're gonna start making up stories about him going for early Christmas, like they used to do with Guti. Remember that?
I do. They always pull that stuff. Maybe his injury's not long enough for them to play those kinds of games.
2-3 weeks apparently. So there's not a lot of games left in December.
That's concerning, though, man. With Chiro.
Oh my God! It's already December 9th.
Yeah, and our last game is on the.
Oh my God!
Our last game is on the 21st of December, and our first game back is on the 5th of January. So.
This year, man.
This year is over, most likely.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in, Josh. That's awesome to see a new commentator. Tin, who I don't know if you guys saw me struggling to try to find messages. I could have sworn he wrote a message earlier. Maybe he deleted it, or maybe it didn't pass YouTube's quality control standards somehow. But yeah, Tin writes he had amazing chemistry with Tayfur. I think he means Rebic.
Because he was a shithead or what? Like shithouse? Or
I don't know.
I like Tayfur, man. Like people hate on Tayfur way too much.
I didn't mind Tayfur either.
He was he's one of those people that probably shouldn't be allowed on social media. But how many people?
Didn't he do something good for Ayup against the rival? I thought he did something recently that was like redemptive.
Yeah. He gave us a penalty in the 90th minute.
Oh yeah, against us. No, but I think didn't he actually perform well
against Galatasaray? He started
in the draw, right? Anyway, but so yeah, he can get some points with us on the back end like that. But so that's it for our comments, guys. Where do we go from here?
What did you guys?
I guess we could preview Bodo Glimt a little too.
We should talk about Bodo Glimt. We should talk about the elections, but let's cap off the derby discussions. Maybe any final thoughts from you, Sinan?
Yeah, look, we have to say it was a pretty good performance considering our expectations and like what could have occurred, right? We could have just completely capitulated. We have an interim coach, a squad that's dispirited, that's barely getting paid, we had every reason to like not perform here, and they did. So that's a credit to the squad. I think it's a tip to the idea that maybe they haven't completely checked out to the extent that I think a lot of people have insinuated.
Yeah. We've closed the gap to Fener at least now to 7 points.
So that's great. We could still catch them. And look, I had this funny thought. If we maintain our form enough that we kind of keep this like 10-point gap with us and Galatasaray up top.
So,
That's
13,
still
yeah.
like, yeah. I mean, we could get some. We'll get them on the. We'll beat them next. Don't worry, we got them. We're derby
I
masters.
mean, this is
now.
the
I don't know if
difference
you
with
guys
last
know.
season, right? Last season we had a shit season, and we didn't even have a single derby win that could like cheer us up a little bit. Because when you have these
Exactly.
absolute shit seasons, or like as bad as last season doesn't happen very often, but like if you have a really bad season where you're not really involved in the title race, you still like to take pride that you played a role in the title race by beating your rivals or whatever, and like
We've
make
already had 2 derby wins already. Obviously, one was in the Super Cup, the 5-0 win against Galatasaray.
yeah.
That was a lot of fun, though. Yeah.
Like 2 derby wins, man, already.
Mm.
And that,
Yeah.
There's no reason why
And-
we
and
shouldn't
look-
beat Gal. I mean, look at the Galatasaray game. Like we barely lost there. We lost on set pieces. We were the better team, arguably.
Yeah.
There's no reason why
Yeah.
we shouldn't be able to beat them if we, get a couple of reinforcements in. Don't have 10 injuries and all that.
yeah.
We're at full
But
strength.
just to wrap up my point, though, if we end the season 10 points out of first place,
Mm.
10-ish points, that still represents huge progress over last season, right?
Yeah.
Like 300%.
It's already 10ish now,
performance.
though. And the likelihood
I
of
know,
us
I
dropping
know.
points is probably higher than them at this point. Although they have some injuries now as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and remember, like their schedule is going to be worse. They have way more away matches, right? Like I would actually argue that that's not necessarily the case. Like we could probably maintain this point gap if things stabilize enough, in the off season. If we bring in a little talent, especially a winger, I mean, it's for me, it's not completely outside of the realm of possibility that we maintain this 10-point gap, and if we do, that does represent huge progress. Nobody wants to think about it like that because I think people had slightly perhaps deluded themselves into the idea that we were going to win a title this year. So that I don't think anyone's going to take too much positivity out of that. But there's still a chance for progress here in a pretty massive way. So stay tuned, folks. Keep watching the podcast. Yeah. Hopefully, we have lots of fun to report on in the coming months. I don't know. Yeah. Jin says that he recalled some fine passing between them, meaning Tayfur and Rebic. For instance, Tayfur's goal against Bodo, and that's cool, Tin. No, I mean, I think we thought maybe you were being like cheeky.
Yeah, I mean, he could have. Rebic could have probably finished last season despite the very limited playing time with like 7-8 assists or something.
Yeah.
Kartal, your final thoughts on the derby?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great performance, but it was a very, very exciting game for me. And we needed that. I needed that.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful feeling. I was on cloud 9 after it.
I was pissed. I was super pissed. I was super pissed because of that red card for Gedson. I couldn't enjoy the win because I was so pissed about that red.
I think when you've not won in 5 league games and you've only won one in your last 7, I think despite the red card, man, I was on cloud 9 after that. I was buzzing. I'm still buzzing just now, man. Maybe it wasn't the best performance from either side, but it's just always great when you beat your rivals. But yeah, man, like now the wages are up to date. Hopefully Hussein Uzel can keep paying those wages and we don't have any more issues. Fingers crossed, man. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully we can use this as a launching pad. Like we beat Galatasaray in the Super Cup 5-0 and then we won like 5 out of our 6 first league games and had 1 draw.
Yeah.
See if we can go on a run to that now. Use that. This is a launching pad like that. We'll be in a much better position in about a month last time. And hopefully, like this could be like the sign saying, "Nah, we're not going to let this become like last season."
Let's hope so.
It could be that. And
you know what?
if we can use this as that launching pad and we can get close to what we're doing at the start of the season, and then if we even in third or second, I think we can't be too disappointed come the end of the season. I'm just hoping for some reinforcements as well, of course, in January. Really away on, man. Great.
I was gonna say I feel like, and maybe this is a good segue into the election conversation, but like part of me feels like we kind of have to let Hussein Yücel finish out this year, because he has money and he'll probably be desperate to try to make this work. And like we really, as a club, we cannot capitulate. We cannot go back to this notion that like we're just gonna throw away the second half. We need to be putting pieces into place for growth going forward, right? Like we can't, for example, I remember in one of the group chats, somebody said we shouldn't really invest anything into the squad this offseason. I completely disagree.
Of people are saying, but I wanted to bring that up, Zidane. You're already going off.
Sorry. Sorry, man. No, but you know, for me, it's important to mention.
Conversation to that. You're already jumping.
No, but you know, it's important because, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Regardless of who wins the election or who the coach is or what the roster looks like, we do need to be building towards something, right? Yeah. If next summer we're right back to square one, we have to buy.
Regressing in football. Right? If you stand,
exactly.
You cannot not utilize a transfer window. It's one of the, especially in our situation when you're in the middle of a squad overhaul, a squad rebuild. You know, the Brad Friedel interview, he talked about it. This was going to be a 2, probably 3 transfer window job. And if we're going to waste a complete window now, that is so, it's going to be so detrimental long term. But before we get to that, to the meat and the potatoes of that, my main takeaway of what Kartal just said is Beşiktaş is like, if a Beşiktaş win is better than any form of alcohol, any form of drug, 72-hour buzz guaranteed. So you know what to do, folks. Subscribe and come buzz alongside our Scottish friend here. And he knows, man. He's from Glasgow. You know, they the whiskey capital of the world.
Party hard.
Anyway, yeah, let's get to the discussion about the elections. Those are coming up. Kartal, can you find whether they're still scheduled for the 29th? Because that's supposed to be the intention. I really hope that's what they didn't get postponed, because postponing them would mean midway January or whatever, and that just loses you more time. And like a lot of people were talking about this. Even Sergen commented on it already on his show with Candaş Tolga Işık, how he said that Beşiktaş should probably stick with Serdar and they shouldn't do any transfers in January. And lots of people have been saying in general that we shouldn't be doing any transfers. I think that would be the biggest mistake. I mean, and you know, this is gonna be one of those. Now we know Adale is a candidate, and I definitely think Serdar Adale has perhaps earned an opportunity. However, I don't know if the time is right, and I kind of want to stick with the money here. I know that comes across very Galatasaray plasticky, bandwagony, but I think we need that right now.
It's contextual. Because like we need to make progress this season, right? Like it's key that we have enough pieces in so that in the next window, whoever's in charge, they just have a few kind of key tweaks to the roster, and we'll actually be able to compete for real. Because I mean, all season long, even when we were playing well, we knew we lacked bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, right. And so it's so important for us that we actually don't go into next season with the same problems.
Kartal, how do you feel about what a lot of people are saying? A lot of pundits are saying, should Beşiktaş not bring in any new players in January? Should they just do a Feda 2.0, probably get rid of some people and?
I think you need to get that creative wing in the leash, man, because I think you throw away this season if you don't make that sign.
Winger and the left back. Otherwise, you're stuck with Masuaku for 6 more months.
I think most importantly that winger, man, because Rashika is just not doing that at all. And we're really, even against Fenerbahçe, we lacked that chance creation again. I mean, I'm not that guy that even when we were good, I was saying, look, we need this.
Yeah, of course.
I said it.
We've been consistently saying it. We just, I think we all just hoped that we could make do with what we had until January. But we've all been saying it, like that's very important, and we just need to limit the damage and try not to fall too far behind the pack. And you know, we obviously didn't. I mean, if it wasn't for November, I think we would have been on schedule, but.
Yeah,
and November happened.
And I mean, in a way, we're not even like off. We're only off schedule because of how things turned. But like results wise, I mean, we're kind of where we should be. As you just wish it was going in the right direction instead of the wrong direction.
If you win the Başakşehir game, if you win the Hatay game, that's at least 4 more points. What games happened as well that we probably could have won. the Gaziantep game, if you just hold on for 60 more seconds, 90 more seconds, like that's another 2 points. There's been moments here, I think, in this season, even in this November, where with a little bit more luck, maybe one or two subs, using your players better, utilizing Oxlade, whatever, maybe you get a couple of more points out of it. Maybe instead of dropping 6 points in those games, you only drop 4 points or whatever, or 2 points.
Yeah, 3.
And every little bit could help now. I mean, look, if we beat Hatay last week, then instead of a 13-point gap right now, we're talking an 11-point gap. And 11 points, it's not likely, but it's happened before. Fenerbahçe has caught Trabzonspor when they had an 11-point lead. Might have been 9. They caught us when we had an 11-point lead. Oh, okay, that did require the whole Jempa Pila thing and a whole bunch of shenanigans in the subsequent matches. But still, who's to say that doesn't happen? I mean, it never happens to Galatasaray, that kind of stuff, but
well, one derby victory and an 11-point lead is suddenly an 8-point lead, and things can spiral.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
the big detail here as well. Mauro Icardi, he's injured for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Osimhen, I believe, is that right, Can? I think you said something about Osimhen.
Let me
supposedly.
Look, Cartel. So this is a comment by Tin. He says, with news of Osimhen possibly leaving mid-season.
Yeah.
Which we should probably. He said, prepare yourselves for an incredible title comeback. 13 points after all.
He has said multiple times already that he's not gonna do that. So
that's exactly what I was saying. But there's talks at PSG are wanting to swoop in for Osimhen. And he does have.
Is that right? So there is talk.
Confirmed on a TV interview that Osimhen does have a get-out clause in January.
He does. He does, but he has repeatedly said that he's not gonna use it. But you never know in football, right? If a club like Paris Saint-Germain comes along, maybe he can't say no.
Can't say no.
Yeah, so I mean, and he's out now for 2 to 3 weeks as well. So he's gonna miss the remainder of the games. You never know, it's possible. But let's see our schedule first, because one of the comments that we had earlier was, are Beşiktaş going to end December undefeated? And I think, on paper at least, the biggest test is coming up on Thursday, and that will be our European opponents, Bodo Glimt. And I want to get back to this presidential discussion in a second, guys. But let's talk about this first. Bodo Glimt, we have a depleted squad. Masuaku is suspended. Oxlade-Chamberlain not on the list. Paulista injured, Udokai injured, Tayyip Talha injured, Ciro Immobile injured. There's a lot of injuries, a suspension, a guy not on the list. We're gonna be playing a very interesting lineup. Like, let's see this lineup we had against Fenerbahçe. There's a bunch of players missing from that lineup already. No Masuaku, no Tayyip. So you put in Bakhtia for Tayyip, for example. But then who you put on the left back? I think the only option then is gonna be Emre Can. Or you're going to have to play a different sort of lineup. No Ciro, so you move Semi to the striker position. Who's going to play on the wing? Is Mucci ready to play 90 minutes? Maybe you can put Mucci in. Maybe you put Mucci behind the striker. You put Rafa on the wing. There's still a guy named Joao Mario that I think we should also keep utilizing. Because that's one of the things I'm seeing right now. Serdar is giving opportunities to Salih, he's giving opportunities to Ox, he's giving opportunities to other players, but I think he also needs to keep giving opportunities to someone like Joao Mario, because Joao Mario has kind of been used as the stick, as the scapegoat for everything, and I think that's a mistake. I think Serdar also needs to embrace him and needs to tell him, look, Joao, you're getting a lot of the shit for stuff that's beyond your control, not your fault. I have confidence in you. I think the team still needs you, and we need to utilize him. So maybe Joao Mario, you use him against Bodo Glimt, for example.
He could be a right.
We'll do very well to get a draw in this game.
Yeah,
I think as we are missing, Bodo Glimt are a force, especially at home.
Yeah.
So I think we would do very, very well to get a draw. And like before Gio was appointed, like Knutson was one of the guys I'd said that I'd quite like to see come to Beşiktaş.
Not happening, by the way.
Yeah, not going to happen. But the guy has that team, a very, very modest team playing phenomenal football, and they've been playing it for years. They've beaten Celtic. They've beaten us. They've beaten Roma.
Roma 6-2.
They've beaten a
them
lot of
multiple times. Actually, I just today, this morning at 10, I finished recording our preview for the match on Thursday with Adrian Richvoldsen. That'll be available tomorrow on our YouTube channel as a video. It is already available right now if you are a Black Eagle VIP member. You can either watch the video version on our Patreon page, or you can listen to it on the VIP audio feed. Both audio and video formats are available. Tomorrow it'll be available on our YouTube channel. I was supposed to do this interview last week. Unfortunately, the special guest I had lined up had an emergency with his pet, and he couldn't. And I couldn't get back in touch with him. So I really hope that his dog is fine. But he didn't get back to me, unfortunately. So I sat around waiting a couple of days, and then I decided, okay, I'm gonna have to look for someone else. So fortunately, Adrian Richvoldsen was able to come in and tell us all about Bodo. We, of course, know Bodo quite well already from last season. No more Albert Grunbeck, but they still have plenty of quality. So I talked about all of that. Also, Kjetil Knudsen, their coach, the project, how they have started dominating Norwegian football in the last decade, have taken over from Rosenborg, who I think everyone kind of saw as the giants of Norwegian football in the past. Bodo Glimt have very much taken over that role nowadays. And yeah, go and check that out tomorrow. It's on YouTube. Or become a Black Eagle VIP member and get instant access. Sorry.
Do you guys want to get angry? Yeah. Let me get you guys a little angry real quick. So you probably know this, Khan. But, you know, Bodo Glimt's season has just come to an end.
Yeah.
December 1st.
And they have been crowned champions of Norway yet again.
But so you might say, oh, it's too bad we don't play them in our next Europa League game because they're going to be so far out of practice. But you know who does? You know who does have the lovely advantage of playing them in January 23rd after they won't have played football for like 2 months? Guess. Guess who gets such a lovely advantage? No, Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Right, that's right. And Galatasaray have that same advantage now against Malmö, by the way, because Malmö's season has ended as well a little bit earlier, I think, than it did in Norway. So, yeah, that's right. That is.
So they'll be a little bit off of form, maybe, hopefully, but they'll be a couple weeks off without playing against us. But yeah.
Stop talking
that club.
Tel Aviv.
Man, these guys got like gifted place in the knockout stage.
They got a freebie against us, both because of our chaos, but also because of the shenanigans of our home field advantage being taken away from us, which was absolute BS. And now they get now they're gonna get a Bodo Glimt
completely
that
out of form.
Football in over a month, so that's gonna be an interesting one for them. But that'll be an away game at least, so they'll still have to play on a frozen pitch.
Yeah.
So hopefully one of them, if he scores a goal, does his stupid military salute and slides and rips open his knees or something.
Yeah.
I really don't understand how he never get reprimanded for that.
Apparently, UEFA has started an investigation. They have supposedly.
Oh man, they better finish that investigation with the
Turkish
result.
Football Federation that they have started an investigation into it. What is there to investigate though? Like it's you know, it's
exactly. He pointed to the flag and done an army salute. Mary Demi will get a 2-game international ban for doing the Grey Wolf sign. You know what I mean? If that gets games, they should get 2 games.
But you know what the difference is, Kartal? He's a Turk, so different rules.
Right. Or Muslim even.
Yeah, exactly. But let's not get into the politics, guys. So Bodo Glimt on Thursday. So will we finish this month unbeaten? I don't think so, because Bodo Glimt is going to be extremely difficult. But let's hope for the best. We still need 3 points. Let's hope we already get them on Thursday. That would be amazing. Otherwise, we'll have to get them either against Athletic Club, who haven't lost a single game since September, apparently. Or we'll have to get in the last game on the 12th of January away in Twente, in Enschede. So that's also a possibility, but Twente are, of course, a good side as well. So 3 difficult games, 2 away games. So, and we need 3 more points. That Maccabi game, I mean, we said it before, that's the one we have to win. And we didn't. We did even we did the opposite. So other than that, though, on the weekend we have Adana Demirspor. I think, yeah, obviously that is a game. There is no excuse not to win that, even with injuries and stuff like that. Like, Demirspor have been absolutely horrendous this season. They have lost every single game this season, except for one, I think. And they've been getting beaten handily, even by bad sides. So it's an away game, but we should be winning that. Then we have Alanyaspor at home. They just did a coaching change not too long ago. They got our Angstgegner Kasımpaşa's coach. So let's hope he doesn't go 5 for 5 against Beşiktaş, because I think he won. No, is it 3 for 3 that he has right now? 2 games last season, 1 game this season, so 4 for 4. Let's hope he doesn't go 4 for 4, Sami Urlu, because he definitely has our number. And then our final game of the season. Oh, that is actually our final match. So we only have Demirspor and Alanyaspor left in the league before we go on a 14... No, is it 14 days? Yeah, it's 14 days hiatus, or 15 days. And then we will be back for the second half of the season against Rizespor in Rize. And wouldn't you know it, Rize finally started picking up steam again after getting trashed.
Just in time.
Exactly. So, that'll give us... first and foremost, there will be the elections on the 29th, and then you have 6 days after those elections, the first game back against Rize. The chances that we bring in a winger in that amount of time isn't super big, I think. Let's talk about it right now. The 2 candidates, Hüseyin Yücel and Serdal Adalı. Who is your pick? And I'm gonna start with you, Kartal, because mine and Sinan's already kind of known. So I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, we sort of said it already.
Like, I don't like Hüseyin Yücel at all. I see the moment he done that Mourinho Talisca shit on TV. From that point onwards, I've not been a fan, to be honest. But the fact that Serdar Adalı is rumoured to have Yildirim Demirören's son on his... Yeah, it's really putting me off.
Yeah.
And also, I think that Hüseyin Yücel is the only person that I think could pay these wages until the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Emre was talking about it in our group chat that apparently Adalı isn't as financially strong as he used to be anymore. He was never super rich, but he was rich. But I think Beşiktaş right now, because it's also one of the things that's being talked about. I think Fatih Doğan was talking about that apparently Hüseyin Yücel, if he gets elected, is seriously considering to pay off our debt with the Bankerler Birliği. That would offset all those interest payments that we have to make. That is a significant cash injection. I think that's like 87 million euros or something.
Yeah,
that would be pretty massive. 87 million off of the debt being cleared. Of course, you know,
that's
like
huge.
That is talk. We'll have to wait and see, because Fatih Doğan can say what he wants. We know how the media works in Turkey. You know, they don't bite the hands that feed them. So it could very well just be sort of propaganda. I think Hüseyin Yücel should just come out and say that. And I think that would be labeled as unfair competition by Adalı and co. But I think if Yücel is going to do that, he should just say it. Look, he said, I'm prepared to do that. I'm prepared to pay that out of my pocket. And Beşiktaş can pay me back without interest. I think that alone is enough. Because I don't know if you know, the interest rates in Turkey are insane. They're like 20%. And imagine a 20% interest rate on an 87 million loan. That's insane.
Huge.
It's massive. Yeah. So that is...
And I think there's another element too, which is there's a much better chance of us bringing in the kind of talent that we need if we have Hüseyin Yücel in there, right? Just given his financial status, but also given the fact that it's kind of his project that's still being built out. I think there's just more likelihood that he'd be invested in trying to make it work. You know, trying to make it.
I think,
you know, at least something to build on.
I think if Adalı comes in, you're gonna have the same issue that we've had the last 2 boards, where they come in and they point their fingers at everything the previous board did wrong, And they kind of try and use, and rightfully so to an extent. But I'm kind of fearful that if Adali wins and he comes in, he'll be like, I need to clean up this mess first, and I'm not gonna make any big investments. And I really think not making any investments in this squad this January is a massive, massive mistake. We all know what's gonna happen to the foreign limit in the summer if they don't change it. But that rule is going to make it a lot more difficult in the summer to bring in quality wingers. Because either you're going to have to bring in young players, which, I'm all for it, don't get me wrong. I'm all for bringing in young players. But bringing in young players usually means big transfer fees. And everyone and their mothers right now is talking about the transfer fee we paid for Mucci, the transfer fee we paid for Al Musrati. And yeah, of course, if these players would be playing, like crazy, they would be doing amazing, then nobody talks about those fees. But as soon as those players don't 100%, deliver, like I think with Musrati that's the case. With Mucci, it's more the case of, that hasn't worked out. With Musrati, I think people are still kind of on the fence right now. But the problem is if you bring in, let's say, a 21-year-old winger, and or an 18 or a 19-year-old, whatever, and he's not really ready yet, and he needs a season or two, they're not gonna get that if he costs 10 million. Hell, if he costs 5-6 million in Turkey, like as soon as he plays one bad game, it's So the bar is so high. I think in an ideal world, of course, you get a younger player, but the problem is in the summer we won't have that option anymore. It's either you get a 24-year-old or younger, or you don't, or you have to get a full-fledged international. And full-fledged international, you ain't getting an Italian, you ain't getting a Frenchman, you ain't getting a German, you aren't getting an Englishman, you're not getting a single winger from a top 20 nation.
Yeah, I really hope they ditch that international part of it. Apart from that, I think it's a really good rule.
Yeah, I agree with you. If they remove that 75% requirement of national team games over the last year, and they just make it, okay, you can bring in 3 players older than 24, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if they, with that addendum, it's horrible. I think it's great that you're trying to push the clubs to buy younger players. I think that's great. But you still need to be able to sign a Rafa Silva. Maybe not for 6 million a year, but you still need to be able to sign a Rafa Silva. You still need to be able to sign a Mauro Icardi, a Ciro Immobile, Edin Dzeko. I don't know. Does Edin Dzeko still play 75% of the games for Bosnia? I'm not sure if he's still a full-fledged international. But those aren't maybe even the best examples. But I think Icardi, for example, is a really good example. I think every Beşiktaş fan right now would probably have taken Icardi over the last 2 years, whether you like him or not. And whether you want to put up with the baggage of his crazy relationship. But in terms of performance and goals and what it's gotten them, and that's a player with this new rule, you simply cannot sign him under any circumstance because he doesn't play for his national team.
I don't see that rule standing for too long.
I don't think so either, but you will imagine it will at least stand for one window, and then it completely fucks your summer, and then it fucks your next season, because then we can't bring that winger in. And you can maybe justify putting off big transfers until the summer. But if you then in the summer can't do them because of these limitations, and then you have to go into... imagine having to go into next season with Can Keleş and Rasicka as your only wingers. That's another season you can cross off.
Let me do some comments, Con, because this is actually ties into that. So Finnish Kebab says title's quite impossible, but second place should be target. At least it gives the Champions League qualifiers matches next year. Yes, that's a reason for us to stay competitive. Grey Wolf says, do you think they will get players into this chaos? And if so, who would come? I guess that's like he's asking again because we've sort of already said we want us to do that kind of thing. And he wrote, I wrote it before. For some reason, Beşiktaş has a history of its players getting injured repeatedly. They're doing something wrong. So then he says, experiment with different players, especially from the youth academy. And this is why I wanted to read these. You can't do that. Like, we can't take that much of a risk with the whole second half of the season. Because like Khan just said, what if we don't find anyone worthy? And there's not a good, like, there's not, it's not like we've seen a good winger, you know, in the academy and thought, oh, like that person should be getting more playing time. Like that's one position where we have nothing and haven't had anything for a while, with the exception, I guess, of Semi, who, you know, most people don't view as a winger.
Oh, can I add something to that?
We cannot go into next season with
almost.
Sure, but just to wrap it up, because this is my last point. We can't go into next season with Rashica and John Kilesh as our wingers, right? Because there's very little likelihood we're going to find anyone in the academy, and so then we really, literally are back to square one, and we have, you know, like you said, limitations on who we can get, and so yeah, we get some. Let's say we get some guy who like plays for like the Angolan national team, right? And then the next window they cancel that rule, but we have that dude on contract who we can't get rid of.
And you're paying it.
It's like we're back in the whole
you're paying
cycle.
him 1.2 million a year, and you paid 5 million for him, and he's actually not really that good, or you know, like you end up with a guy like Rashica like that because he does.
Or Onana, worse.
He does play for Kosovo and all that kind of stuff. But you know, the whole thing of okay, let's give chances to young players from the academy. The problem with that is these players need to be ready. And one of the biggest issues, and you're going to probably say in the comments now, yeah, but other teams can do it, why can't we? Well, the big reason, in my opinion, this is my opinion, almost all the clubs that I know that are known for giving chances to young players, almost every single club have their really talented youth play at a highly competitive level. Ajax, PSV, Genk, Anderlecht, Club Brugge, you know, all like the teams from Belgium and the Netherlands, they all have B teams in the second division. And their kids, their 18, 19-year-olds, are playing against professionals week in, week out. Our kids, our academy 19-year-olds, are playing against other kids from in front of empty stadiums with a couple of people on the sidelines and stuff like that. They're not playing at a good level. So when a player comes up, the leap is too big. And that is one of the big issues with Turkish football. And that is one thing they were talking about last season about giving the big clubs these teams in the second or third division. Like, it doesn't need to be the second division. Look at Spain. I think it's the third or the fourth division nowadays. And in Portugal, it's, I think, the third division. Or might be the second division. But there's a huge difference between playing at the second or third tier of a national league of your country versus playing against children. 18, 17-year-old children. I mean, that is essentially what they are. You know, a guy like Simi comes around once every decade, maybe. A kid that's 18 and is ready, is physically ready, and you can start giving chances to, and is going to deliver to a certain extent at such a tender age. Who's the last guy that did that? You know, Ersin and Ridvan probably, but they were never massive talents, right? And before that, how many players can you name? There's not a lot. And there's a reason for that, because these kids are not playing at a high enough level, so their talent needs to be so exponential for it to translate. Yeah. And even then, they're usually coming in with a physical deficit. If they're playing in the second division, they're not going to have a massive physical deficit. That's one of the big issues with Turkish football. So it's easily said and done, yeah, we should give more chances to our youth and our academy, but as long as our academy players aren't playing at a good level, we are only very sporadically going to be able to tap talent from that pool, unfortunately.
Yeah. Tin saying time to hand ADS a long-awaited win. I thought he meant loan win, but I think they've won already. So that wouldn't, yeah.
No, I think they have. I think they have a draw. I think they have 1 point. I think they have a single point.
So they don't even have a win. So he could have said lone win.
I don't think so. I'm going to check. I don't think they have a win yet. I'm gonna check right now. I think they're rock bottom right now with 1 point, but I could be mistaken. I have it up right now.
So yeah, it would have been their lone win.
Points. And a
so still no win.
Goal differential of -24.
So, Tin, you could have corrected it to loan win and it would have worked just fine, which is what I assumed you'd meant. Then Sarper, welcome back, my friend. He comes in, he says, and then he says, Fahri Kerem is a left-footed right winger. His style is like Ghazal. They say he's coming stronger than Seve. They say he's developing better than Semi.
I mean, we saw Fahri Kerem in action already a little bit last season, if you'll remember. And I also think
didn't show me anything.
In the preseason and in the training games, we also saw him. I don't think he's a winger. I think he's a number 10 behind the striker, actually. I could be mistaken, but I don't think...
And he looked okay, man.
He definitely looked like he had something. Yeah, definitely. But I think that is the type of player, if instead of playing for the under-19s at a shitty level right now, he could have been having 2 seasons or 1.5 season under his belt now in the second division, consistently playing, then you could be talking about a player that has a future, and we could bring him to the first team in the summer and then maybe play 1 or 2 seasons and then you sell him for 10 plus million. But the problem is he is now 19, I think, or 18 or 19. I think he's a little bit younger maybe than Simi. But like he's wasted at least a year at a shit level at the moment. That is, he's already too good for that level. And he should be going up, but he isn't. And he's standing still. And we just talked about this earlier. In football, standing still is regressing. And it's the same thing for these, especially for these kids.
And this is going to tie right into Grey Wolf's comments. Now, I will say something. Ugly Brown, your comments don't show up on YouTube. And I wonder if it's your name they don't like. So I can't read your comments now. We let them pass. Oh, there's one.
That's weird. Why aren't our comments showing up?
I don't know. It's weird. They haven't won yet, so he was commenting on the ADS thing. So I don't know what he said earlier, but maybe
if you want
username.
us to read it out, Ugly Brown, type your previous comment that we haven't read again, or just copy paste and just do it again, then we can read it out. Because
it's weird. YouTube has censored you. Grey Wolf, actually, though. So this is where
I think I might be able to see them in. I'll check. You keep reading in the meantime.
The Grey Wolf says, I'm saying this due to lack of options. Financially, board is in chaos. We don't even have a president. 2 elections. Also, we don't have the money. And who would come to us in our table standing and may not play in Europe next year? This is short term until everything is settled. It does not seem we have any options in bringing anyone. And again, who would come? Another washed up 30-year-old. So, look. Grey Wolf, I actually seriously disagree with you on this one because, first of all, we are Beşiktaş. We are not like, in the mid-table or at the, in fear of relegation. I think a lot of people could come and feel like they could have a positive contribution and get us as far as second place at the very least, which is not anything to scoff at. And then you're playing in Europe next year. There are lots of like. I'm sure Khan is going to mention Berardi, right? Like who we've heard tossed around quite a bit. There's no, you couldn't convince me that he wouldn't be able to have a positive impact for Beşiktaş, and that wouldn't be something useful. So that at least that's another hole that's filled going into next summer. There's got to be something of that nature in our plans. I think we need to bring in someone who can give us less problems to deal with in the summer. And I'm sure that we have the capacity of bringing in a good winger, probably not some sort of like super prospect, 24-year-old, Angelo Gabriel type, which was probably unrealistic to begin with. I mean, that's why we didn't get him.
Does it mean that you can't still get decent players from Brazil or from Argentina or from Chile or mean Uruguay?
It's finding these guys before they go to Chelsea.
But the
problem
is though, Castel,
what was that?
But in the 90s and even in the 2000s, clubs like PSV were really good at that because they had a great network in South America and they could get the Romarios, the Ronaldos. That is not possible anymore. Like that is
Yeah, well, you don't
Not
mate.
impossible, but nigh impossible. You see what Chelsea do. Like they just like clubs like Chelsea and these other clubs that have these networks. They just hoover up all that top talent. Like anything that looks even remotely resembling an elite talent is immediately snapped up. Like look at the kid that went to Real Madrid. What was his name? Endrick. He was 16 years old or something, and they already signed him. You know.
I mean, you don't need to go to Brazil, man. You can go to
No, of course. I mean, yeah.
Ecuador.
You can go to Ecuador. You can go to Northern Europe.
You need to go to markets that are not as saturated because like Brazil is too competitive. But like exactly Denmark, Sweden, Norway. A guy like Albert Grunbeck is somebody we could have had. We would have had to pay a lot of money.
It's got to be off the beaten path. Got to get a little more creative with it. Exactly. Which is not like out of the realm of possibility.
I've mentioned him a few times already, but there's a player, left winger, who plays for Hammarby, 18-year-old, Bazumana Touré, and like maybe 6-7 million, but you have that's a phenomenal player. But that Beşiktaş doesn't do that, you know. And the problem is, you can pay that money. It's a lot of money for Beşiktaş. And if he works out, then it's a steal because then you can sell him for 25 million, 30 million maybe. But if he turns out to be another Mucci, then yeah. And that is the problem right now. I think what Beşiktaş needs is one big win. We need a transfer like Mucci to work out, and once you get the ball rolling, then it'll be easier to do those types of transfers in the future. The problem is that Mucci wasn't a great success. Musrati hasn't been massive either. It gets a lot of criticism. You need a win, and then you can start doing that more and more. Like, look at Galatasaray. They paid 9.5 million for that Yillard guy. Doesn't even start their games. But you don't hear anyone talking about him. But everyone's talking about Mucci and Musrati. This Yillard guy cost...
Maybe it's turned off or something.
Yeah, I think the internet went out. Are you hearing me now, guys?
Yeah, now we hear you.
Okay.
Oh, I just shrunk. No.
That was clearly an internet hiccup, I think. Yeah. What's the last you guys heard?
You said
where were we just talking about?
No one talks about Yeller.
The Galatasaray guy who was paid just about as much as Mucci and them, and nobody gives a crap.
Nobody talks about those.
Quickly, let's not miss Ugly Brown's comment this time because we're gonna lose it in a moment. Is there generally a ranking for teams' wealth in the Super League? Is it still top two, Fener and Galatasaray? Anyone else above Beşiktaş? Guys, stop commenting. We're gonna lose it. Anyone else above Beşiktaş, and by how much?
No, Fener and Gala are definitely number 1 and 2. And then there's a drop, and then you have Beşiktaş, and then there's another drop, and then you have Trabzonspor. Beşiktaş are comfortably in 3rd place because they're also just comfortably the 3rd biggest club in the country with, most average attendance, most merchandise sales, biggest sponsorship deals, all that kind of stuff. Trabzonspor's value is also artificially inflated, I feel, because of political involvement. But they are number 4. But there's nobody above Beşiktaş other than Fener and Galatasaray in terms of financial power. But Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe have a huge lead, I would say. Because Fenerbahçe have a billionaire president who pumps in a lot of his own money, and Galatasaray have the government that sponsor them. It's that freaking simple. Galatasaray, when in 2012 got a brand new $100 million stadium from the government. Then they got, on top of that, they got a Turk Telecom sponsorship deal for 10 years, which was another 100 million. Also from that, Turk Telecom is a government company. So essentially that's a 200 million euro or dollar gift already. On top of that, you had the whole selling their land to the government, then getting it back for a fraction. Like they've over the last decades, maybe $1 billion has been pumped into Galatasaray from the government. That is, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure, Beşiktaş and Fenerbahçe get tax breaks too, but it doesn't even come remotely close to the amount of money that has gone from the Turkish taxpayers to Galatasaray over the last decade or so. So their financial lead right now, that's significantly influenced by governmental interference. And Trabzonspor's ability to somewhat keep up as well. They also got a brand new stadium from the government. They just got out of the Bankalar Birliği agreement. Who paid that? Nothing has been said about that. One day they just announced it. Oh, we're out of it. Yeah, okay.
Ugly Brown had so what is the deficit financially behind Galatasaray and Fener? Asking because it seems like we never make big splash moves on currently obviously the impactful players. I mean, I would argue that Ciro Immobile and Rafa Silva were examples of those, but I mean certainly not to the extent that our rivals do.
No, I mean we have
and
two
the
expensive players
sizable
on our contracts like that, and our fans are already going crazy about that. Like, oh, how did we get these wages? But like Galatasaray have like 6-7 guys like that. They have Osimhen, they have Icardi, they have Torreira, they have Ziyech, they have Muslera, they have like who else? Like other than their Turkish guys like Yunus and Barış Alper, Gabriel Sara is probably making a shit ton of money. I'm not sure how much he's making, but like they have like half their squad makes more than 3 million a year.
This is what I'm going to get at. See that this is the difference between us and them. See people that say, "Oh, I don't care about all the money. They should just do it." Look at how Galatasaray does it and Fenerbahçe does it. See when we try and do what they do, we end up with a half-baked squad like we do just now, because we don't have the money to go and just stack our team like that in one middle, like Galatasaray have done. Can't do that. So that's. Some people, you do get a lot of people saying, am I an accountant? Should I care about the wages? I just want a good team.
But the problem is the problem is Kartal. You're right. You can't do what they do because, like I just said, they have 6-7 players who are on insane wages. But you can also not stand still and not do anything. I'm not saying that we should have gotten Ciro for 6. And I'm not saying that maybe even Rafa for 6, but like the problem is if you don't, you get left behind completely. And a guy like Rafa is somebody you can build around for the next 3 years.
You can go about things like see if they get money, you can be smart and beat them. Like how did we do it in the mid 2010s?
No, there was never, the gap was never so big. The money they are spending now.
Squad Fenerbahçe had like that team was a very good.
Yeah, they had a very good squad, but we also had Mario Gomez and Ricardo Quaresma and Jose Sosa and
And they were the cherries on top. But that
cherries on top. You don't win the league without those guys, Kartal.
Yeah, but the foundation was put there as well.
Yeah, but but you needed to put those cherries on top, or you don't win the league, though.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That was a process where we got there, and then we could add those final touches.
Yeah, okay.
Like Gomez and Quaresma.
Okay, yeah. What you're saying is you need to build out a good squad, and then you add the expensive big star player that makes everything go to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
we have it backwards. That's true.
That's what you have to do to beat these guys. You need to do that.
I will say though, it's easier said than done, right?
We're never going to be able to match them in terms of the financial resources.
The problem,
unless we become big time.
But Kartal, look at the foundation that we built that last time around, and it was so dependent on these young German Turks and like these these prospects that we kind of brought in and developed, like Ozan and Gökhan Töre. Like you look at the situation now, and like. Where do you look for young Turkish talent that you can kind of build that
we're
with?
not scouts. Surely they exist. And it doesn't need, and see with this new rule, they don't need to be Turkish. You can find young...
But that's not now. That's next summer.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
if
next.
it works like that, because we still don't really know, there could very well still be a 14-4 in the limit. I would not be surprised. Imagine if that would be the case.
And it's been a rough time as far as finding good Turkish talent. And certainly, if you look at Fener and Galatasaray, that's not what they're
the
built
way it's
on right
looking, they're
now.
not going to have to be Turkish. So that's a huge chance for us.
One of the big issues as well is we had a squad that we needed to overhaul completely almost. And the problem for Beşiktaş is, the reality for Beşiktaş is that is a 2, probably 3 transfer period procedure. And Fenerbahçe and Galatasaray, they do that in one summer. Galatasaray in 2017-18, they literally overhauled their entire squad in one summer, and they won the league. Like they got Belhanda, they got Gomis, they got everyone. They spent 50 million euros, which was now might not seem that big, but back then 50 million euros was unheard of. And they signed a bunch of players making like 4 million a year. Back then, 4 million a year, like our highest paid player was 3.5 million a year, and we had like 1. You know? And they had like 3-4 guys on 4 million a year. And then
Yeah, and Kartal, it kind of has to be a Turk too, insofar as you think about how other countries value their young players, right? Like their promising talent. They're going to charge you money, right? Like Mucci, or in a way, to really build out a full squad. The reason you're kind of reliant on finding a lot of young Turkish talent is because there's a chance you don't have to spend that much to kind of find like 3 or 4 good rotation pieces.
You don't always need to pay premiums. I've given a good few examples like that. Celtic, for example, do a great job of finding these great young talented players for a couple of £1 million.
But we're not Celtic insofar as like they know that when they go to Celtic, if they have a good season,
and
they're
they're
going to
gonna
be in
play
the Premier League
Champions
next
League,
year, right?
They're gonna play.
The team that's selling them. I mean, obviously, maybe they care if there's a sell-on clause.
But Celtic does not have a presidential system like we do, where a president only gets 3 years, and if their first year is shit, there's extraordinary elections 6 months later.
Well, what happened in 2012?
In 2012, everyone knew going in, this is gonna be a rebuilding period. We are.
So you need to explain that to the fan base.
Yeah, but Kartal, in 2012, you had the stadium. Everyone knew, okay, we are building this stadium, and that is going to. You don't have that now. Fans are not gonna just accept that now. They have changed. You yourself have said this many times, how the profile of the fan base has changed since our new stadium over the last decade or so. Do you?
People need to be educated, man. I think mindsets need to change.
If people were educated, I don't think Turkey would be in the situation it's in right now.
It's just like,
That's
this presidential system as well harms us too. Like, see the reason why we spent 6 million. There was 6 million given to Chiro, 6 million given to Rafa yearly wages. Like, do you think they would have done that if there was no elections this summer? Or do you think that they kind of rushed this? They rushed it a wee bit so that they'd get voted in next summer. Be honest, like, what do you think?
But that's the reality of the system, eh? That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. You don't have long-term plans.
Yeah, and that the system is flawed.
Yeah,
it's very flawed.
Of course it's flawed. Of course it's flawed.
That's why I personally think that the club should be sold.
Yeah, but to whom?
Yeah.
To whom?
Because they could sell us out.
I
It could
agree
be even worse.
with you, Kartal, but you are so extremely naive that you believe in this ideal scenario, in this utopian scenario where some billionaire who loves Beşiktaş, who wants to make Beşiktaş the next Man City or whatever, is gonna come in and is gonna invest 500 million euros, because that's what it's gonna need if you want to become whatever, because we have like 300 million debt and then 200 million on top of that to build a really good squad. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I would want that too, but who is going to do it? Who is gonna do it? There's a bunch of billionaires that could do it that are Beşiktaş Congress members, like Cemil Kazancı or Rami Koç. Rami Koç is obviously too old. But I think Ömer Koç, his son, I think is also a Beşiktaş Congress member. I'm not sure. You have Hüseyin Yücel. You have a couple of others whose names elude me. There are people, but I don't get the sense that any of them, other than Yücel now, are willing to do that. With Yücel, I have the very distinct impression that his long-term game is buying the club. I think that's his ambition. But then But do you want Yücel as to be the owner of the club? Do you want that?
No.
Then who do you want? Who do you want?
Exactly.
Then? Do you want some?
No,
do you
but
want
that's
some
exactly the
Saudi
problem.
to own the club?
I mean, if they put football people in...
Kartal. How many clubs are owned by Arabs that are actually doing well? How many?
No, PSG, Man City, Newcastle, kind of.
And what do those three clubs have in common?
I think all of them have put football people in the football positions.
Two of them are in the Premier League. One of them is in arguably the sexiest city in Europe. And which Arab is going to come into the Turkish league, buy a club, pump all his hard-earned, pump all his oil money in it, or his blood money or whatever, and is going to invest 500 million euros in a club that makes maybe 85 million a year. If that. Not makes because we have ridiculous debt, but obviously if he pays off the debt and all that. Like this is what Beşiktaş fans are fantasizing. They think some rich Arab is gonna come in and buy the club, but in reality you're gonna end up like Cardiff. You're gonna have your club, your logo changed, your colors changed, your entire club shat on.
I think if someone actually thinks about the long game, Beşiktaş could become one of the biggest clubs in the world. If someone actually thinks about the long game,
do you really?
There's just so many. There's so many ideals that would have to sort of go in our favor.
Like in Turkey, you can't even be successful in Turkey. They won't allow you. You think they're gonna allow Beşiktaş to win 7 titles in a row?
I mean, if they're that good, they could come to a point they can't stop us.
I've got a story. I've got a. What is it? What is the saying? I've got something to. I got a bridge to sell you. This is Turkey, man.
See if you if you're that good, man, you're so much better.
The only club in Turkey you can do that with is Galatasaray, because you have the support from the government, and that's what you need. The only way Beşiktaş could become that is if somebody very close to this government would be the buyer. And then, of course, you run into the possibility that in a couple of years it's over with the AKP. It's going to end at some point. And then whoever comes in power is going to say, but Beşiktaş is the AKP's club and the only reason they're where they are. I don't think that's possible in Turkey. Turkey is not a stable country. In England you can do that. In France you can do that. In Germany you can't, but you could in theory. But in Turkey, you can't do that. I don't believe in that. I think that is a pipe dream. I don't believe in that. The only way I think for there to, first and foremost, for a rich guy to buy it, I think it needs to be a Turk. And I don't think a foreigner would ever come in and buy Beşiktaş with the intention of making Beşiktaş their priority. Like, but Göztepe is a project team that is part of a network. They're never gonna be the first priority for those people. They're just a good part of their network.
And they'll probably never win a title.
They might win the title. Like, that's possible, but they're not going to. Well, they might, but they're highly unlikely to invest to the extent that would be required for them to dominate Turkish football. On top of that, Göztepe coming in and dominating for 5 years, that's going to upset like 50% of the population. They don't want that, man.
And it's hard to imagine, like, if they have one really good year of sustained success, they probably lose all those players to the teams higher up in the totem pole. the next season. So then they're kind of starting back from scratch. That's kind of the problem
In
with their model.
2003, 2004, Beşiktaş was good enough to beat the refs, but at some point they just go. You think, right? Well, for example, what Arda Kardeşler in the derby did was butcher us. That you haven't seen anything if you think that's butchering. They can do so much worse. And I'm not just talking about Cem Papila. Oh, VAR is offline. Oh, that goal was actually not offside, but we gave offside. And here's a red card. And there and this and that and that. And like they can fuck you so hard, man, if they want to. And Beşiktaş wins a title every couple of years, and they have to be better than the opponents plus the ref. But
I mean, just like with the game against Fener, right? We had to beat them and the ref, even in a kind of dud of a season.
Look
where we are
in the third season, under Şenol Güneş, where we fucked it in the first half of the season. But if there was a level playing field at that point, I think we still win the league. But they didn't allow us. And we were definitely good enough that second half of the season. We had 40-something points, much more than everyone else.
Yeah.
They just kill you. And they don't kill you in every game. They just kill you in the crucial games. I wanted to, Cartel. Don't get me wrong. I would very much want that too, but I don't see it possible.
If you get to a level that you're operating that well, like at a bold level, and you're building like just a really well-oiled machine, like I think it could be possible. I'm not saying it's.
Yeah, but that would have to happen first, and then we're in a different scenario where we even have the choice. Maybe not.
And that's why I'm saying I would much rather I think Hüseyin Yücel. I know you don't want him as the president necessarily, but I think if he would outright own the club, and he doesn't have to worry about elections and all that kind of stuff, and he doesn't have to worry about making big flashy transfers. And all that kind of stuff, and it's actually his own money, and then I think he wouldn't. I'm not saying he would, but maybe I would imagine he might appoint. I think it's much easier for these people to say, "Oh, I'll put in a competent sporting director now, and I'll build out a proper network." And it's not all about egos anymore, because then it's their club. Now they're fighting for a seat for 3 years, and they have to put this guy on the board and that guy on the board because they need this guy has like 30 or like 200 Congress members in their pockets whose votes you need to win the elections, and that guy has 100 and that guy has another 160, and that's how these boards get put together. If you eliminate that, then there's a possibility that somebody with enough money is gonna come in, and maybe they don't have the brain themselves to do it, but maybe they are smart enough to then hire the right people. But I don't see an Arab doing it. Why wouldn't an Arab in Turkey? I don't know. Like, people are,
especially given the weird friction between the two, kind of culturally, like they might not want us to be.
There's a lot of Arabs in documents.
Yeah, but not those kinds.
And a lot of them are invested in like real estate and stuff like that. Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's look at some comments, guys, quickly. So, Finnish Kebab said that in Spain, B teams play in Segunda or Primera.
They used to play in the Segunda,
tier.
but I think they played in the third division now.
Yeah, he said this year is the exception. There is no B teams in Segunda. In third tier, it's around 12 B teams, including out of 40 clubs. Tin says, Friedel mentioned some scouts in the club. Why not bring a few cheap wonder kids this transfer window?
Because it's not Football Manager. Cheap
I was literally about to say
kids.
Just click on the Wonder Kid box, and then we can find that list that we need, and just find the one now. Sadly, it doesn't work like that entirely.
Maybe when you're Chelsea, but and if you consider 15 million cheap. I mean, look, they paid 15 million for Angelo Gabriel, right? And then they sold him like a year later for 23 million. And essentially, that's why they do it, right? A quick flip.
Mm-hmm. They know it's guaranteed money in their pocket, yeah. Atiljan says, supposedly Friedel locked the current scouts at the club from his scouting database, LOL. I don't see how that's even funny. Like, why? Of course he did. He left. Why would he give us access to his service for free, man? We fired his ass.
No.
Like,
I think what he means is that when he came in, there were scouts in place, and I think they weren't maybe they weren't given the passwords or something to the data stuff they were using. But Friedel did mention in his interview that they have compiled a list of over 750 players, and Beşiktaş have that list. Yeah. So.
And I also heard the opposite of that rumor, that he had been stealing the password. So I've heard too many rumors about Friedel and passwords to have any idea what's real.
I mean,
at this point.
Yeah, it's probably it probably has to do with some of the people that Samet had brought in or something.
Yeah, they were tanking people's perception of him.
No, but I think the scouts that Samet maybe brought in, because Samet also talked about a team. He had his team. And I think maybe those people maybe weren't given access or something to all that data, perhaps. I don't know.
Which is, I mean, it's just chaos. There shouldn't be multiple teams for scouting. I mean, and it's worth noting that Friedel was brought in because of his scouting service and his sort of experience in that realm.
That's the thing, right? They've said this from the start. We want to go to a similar model as Arsenal and Chelsea, and with data scouting and all that. And then they should have cleaned out the old system first.
Sack Samet Iwo and get rid of his guys and bring in Friedel and let his guys work.
Exactly. If they would have sacked Ayababa or told him, Samet, your function, you are now in charge of the academy, and you have no more jurisdiction here, and you can tell them you can keep X amount of people on to work with your academy team or whatever, but they have no more jurisdiction with the A team or whatever. They should have just been clear from the start with them. They should have avoided this entire thing. If Samet puts up a fuss, then you sack him. Then you send him off. If he's toxic, you fire him instead of.
The reality is here. This chaos, the fighting between Samet and Brad and stuff like that, it all really falls in Hassan Arad.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you have two people and doing the same job? There's a famous Scottish saying that says, "Too many cooks spoil the broth. A broth is a type of soup."
We say too many cooks spoil the pot.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's true.
It's the same thing.
It's like I was gonna make
that seems like a huge oversight, right?
You know, who likes the Devil's Three-Way? Nobody, except for a couple of pervs, right?
Yeah, maybe I can think of some people. No, but fundamentally, there was one attempt to professionalize the club and bring in these like objective outsiders, and then there was another attempt to kind of keep certain cronies in and people with ties and connections to other people. And there was just, I think, clearly two conflicting visions for how to move forward.
Though, Sinan, because the president himself had this vision of bringing in these professional people, but then he kept the unprofessional people there too.
The old people in.
Get rid of them then.
Yeah. I'm
I
not
think,
disagreeing with that point. Clearly,
I'm under the impression that the only reason, Kartal, I think you said like he was afraid of Samet. I don't even think it's that. I think it's more perception. I think if you would have like fired Samet, they would be like, "Oh, how can he do that to a Beşiktaş legend?" And then of course, if you do that and it's for an American, ooh. You know?
Which clearly
but then
became a thing.
They should have not gone with the American. Then you should have gone with Morgan De Sanctis or something.
Or you sack Samet and then you bring in somebody else. And,
exactly.
Then maybe there's less heat on that. But
I think you still then get to say, "Oh, Samet got fired for Friedel." That's what they're gonna say. And the problem,
I think Zek was a smart choice, and allegedly he was ready to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
But do you not think that Özek would have gotten shat on as well if it was perceived that he got brought in for Aybaba? Don't get me wrong, I would still have done it. I think you need to, if you're the president of Beşiktaş, you need to make these decisions. That's why you're the president. You're not the president to try and play to the crowd. No, you just won the cup. You just won the Super Cup. You have some credit in the bank. Now fire the people that aren't competent, that shouldn't be there. And
Yeah, it's almost depressing that it's sort of clear that there was like a bad apple, that like one move could have probably streamlined the whole process.
I think
but
it's been
probably
clear since the start that this board doesn't function well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly not.
And one defense of Hassan Arad is like maybe he's so sick that like they needed him to be policing over them and he literally couldn't, you know, which doesn't that just means that there's another problem.
Though. Then he should have said, okay, Hussein, you're in charge.
Yeah. And maybe like he shouldn't have brought into sort of separate camps with differing visions in the first place. So it still kind of comes back to him one way or another.
There should only be there should be one sporting director. What club has two fucking sporting directors, man?
Well, and the thing is, like, neither of them even got the title.
We had two and we didn't have
just
one.
It's a mess.
But I know,
think
one of the issues as well is when you put your board together and you have this project outlined, then like I think that the problem was he had these fancy projects, but then it turns out he couldn't do any of them without Yücel's money, because apparently it's Arad who went to Yücel to try and get him on the board. We were all under the impression that Yücel went to him and offered his services.
Like,
but then who was it that said it? That apparently Yücel was wanting to work together with Adali, and Adali was kind of hesitant. And then Arad called Yücel and was reaching out to him to get him instead. So I mean, you know, if the visions did not align, he should not have done that, and he should have just
Hassan Arad, I think, has been a
just naive.
Huge failure.
I'm looking forward to the interview that he is expected to give.
Oh, that's been cancelled, bro, because it was
it's been cancelled. But is it cancelled or postponed? I heard it was postponed.
We'll soon see.
Let's hope. I want to hear it. I really want to hear it. And I think it's also ideally before the elections, because if he was gonna say stuff about Yücel, for example, bad stuff, then I think we shouldn't. We want to know beforehand. And if it's the opposite, I think we also want to know, because right now there's a big portion of the fans who don't trust Hussein Yücel because of all these nasty rumors, and I think you either need Arad to come out and confirm them or deny them and debunk them. I think he owes that to the fans.
Yeah.
Especially after the mess he made, he owes that. If you're too sick, write a statement.
Yeah, write an email or something. Like they can someone in the staff can make it look pretty. Continuing, Atilcan, also Turk have a large sponsorship, government owned. We're talking about Galatas today and their financial advantage. THY sponsors include Turk Milli Takım, Galat, Trabzon, and Başakşehir. You guys can do your own math. Sarper says, yes, we don't need Turkish anymore, but we still need 4 or 5 young players that plays for the team for a while. We need that teamhood in the center of our game. I mean, camaraderie in the...
Yeah, I definitely...
As part of the core structure of our roster.
I definitely think you want more energy. I think on the left back position, I would definitely go for a younger player. Not necessarily super young, but like 22, 23, something like that.
Yasin Özcan.
Yeah, preferably a good French athlete or something like that. But I think in that position you go for that. Yeah. I do think that for the playmaking winger, I think I don't think you want to go too young. I think you want to go with an experienced player. Like, he doesn't need to be 30 years old, but 26, 27, 28.
I want to add to that. Yeah, add to that core of more talented players.
It's a very important role that we need, and I don't think you want to put an 18, 19-year-old player there. Unless there's...
Ideally, get a good 24-year-old, like 24, 25, that you can still resell.
Yeah,
that's hard.
I mean, ideally, but...
If we have the money, if we can sell someone, if we sell someone first,
we'll have money for players is they're usually very expensive, and that's why Turkish clubs and Beşiktaş in particular tend to gravitate towards older players, because you tend to be able to get those a little bit cheaper, or you get a situation like with Rafa where they let their contracts expire because they want a payday, their final big contract. You get those situations. For example, I don't know if you guys saw, but you already said earlier, Sina, I was going to talk about Berardi, but he's actually been selected as the player of the month in Serie B right now. And like he's really, I mean, like Serie A clubs are going to be lining up for him in January. I think if you have the opportunity to get this guy, and you can afford it, I mean that would be a good move. I think. I mean, it doesn't have to be him.
Sarper. Yeah, I mean that's a good. I like that thought. We need a 10-match fan ban. Sarper says that must have been when we were talking about the fans sucking. Tin followed up. We also need a set piece specialist ASAP. Yeah, hopefully our winger does that. Sarper says Cartel for president. And then says fuck them. I believe an English company will buy us. We have good relations there. I don't know who that would be.
Why would they buy us? There's no real money in Turkish football compared to England. You know, buy Wrexham and promote it over a couple of years and go. If you get to the Premier League once, you paid off all the investments and then some. That's
Boom.
200 million pounds guaranteed, because you get like 130 for going up. And then if you relegate, you can get 0 points and relegate, and you get a parachute payment of 95 million pounds. So it's like 200 plus million pounds to getting to the Premier League alone. Before you earn that money back from Beşiktaş, you have to do some crazy stuff. Like, it's just not Beşiktaş is not as part of your umbrella, as part of your stable, as club number 3 or 4. Yeah. As club number 1, it's not attractive for these foreign investors. It just isn't.
Yeah. Grey Wolf, how does one... Oh, no, wait. First, Sarper said, Khan, just curious. How can you be both realistic and fanatic at the
I
same
don't know,
time?
man. I don't know.
That's the job, though, right? That's what we're trying... That's like the challenge of what we're doing here.
It's a thin line. It's a thin
Grey
line.
Wolf,
And
how
I
does
fall
one...
off all the time.
It's hard. Remember when I said we were going to finish in 3rd place? I got a lot of slack for that.
It's that wasn't
I
realistic.
didn't think we'd be this far behind 1st place. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I was optimistic,
let's hope we
you
get,
bastard.
at least 3rd.
Yeah. I'm still gunning for 2nd, honestly. But anyway, how does one... Grey Wolf says, how does one go to buy a club, let's say Beşiktaş? Well, so... You got to make a lot of money first. First things first, you need a lot of money. And then, I don't even know, like, how do you go in and say, I want to break up the sort of the way that we've been doing this.
Voted. I don't know the exact rules. I'm sure Carlito knows or can find out. I don't know what kind of a majority you need. Do you need an absolute majority, or is 51% enough? But essentially, the Congress members would have to vote for the sale of the club, and then the club could get sold. But in order for us to get to a point like that, I feel like we have to sink really low first, probably lower than we are right now, because I don't think... I think you need to be really... I'm going to put a really cynical hat on. I think you need to be almost at a point of bankruptcy, like super close, where the club is no longer attractive for vultures to make money off of it. So if it's like when the club actually has almost no value left, I think that's when you can probably get the Congress to vote to sell the club.
Yeah. Like another Feta era or something like that. Instead of doing Feta, we're like, actually, we're going to shut down.
I think you would... I don't know how deep you would have to fall.
Even worse
I just
than
don't
Feta.
see... Unless there's somebody who has so much money who could almost buy 51% of the votes, I don't think it's possible. I don't know.
It would be hard. It would be really
I
hard.
think it's very unrealistic.
Unless someone came in with such an amazing project who clearly was super wealthy and a huge Beşiktaş fan. It would have to be the perfect scenario.
Then you still need people who have a lot of votes in their pockets, like a Yildirim Demirören, to back
you.
And what's in it for me is what they're gonna say. And if the answer is nothing,
you're gonna give me a spot in the Yeah, what would that even look like without
I
a
don't-
Congress?
yeah.
Anyway, Tin said, you're making fun. Oops. Grey Wolf. No, yeah. Tin, you're making fun of the Wonder Kid idea, but no one is saying we should get Endrick. We can find low-profile players like Scandinavian or Portuguese clubs do. I'm going to skip to his next comment so that we can kind of react to them both. He said, or we should strive to find and get Mucci a few years earlier when he's worth less than 10 mil. I have a response to this, first of all. 3 names for you. Badu Ndiaye, Aydin Hasic, and Besar Gujufi. Those were 3 attempts to find your Aydin Hasic before he was worth the money that you know we would have to pay for even a guy like Mucci, and none of them panned out. Which is not to say that we shouldn't keep trying, but I'm just saying we have tried, and it's not been easy to do that.
The problem with that is that if it's
challenge.
really a top talent, why would they come to Beşiktaş? When they have Ajax,
Yeah,
they have PSV, they have Feyenoord, they have Anderlecht, they have Genk, they have Club Brugge, they have Gent, they have Celtic, they have Rangers, they have so many other options that are probably far easier for them to use as a springboard to get to the Premier League.
Yeah, by the way, not Badu Ndiaye. What's his name? Badra Cisse.
I don't
was
think
his name. Sorry.
I don't think
Badra
Badra
Cisse.
Cisse was really an attempt to be a wonder kid, but yeah, I mean, Aydin Hasic definitely was, and Hasic cost us quite a bit of money. Yeah, he was a free transfer, but
wasn't even
he got
free,
a
yeah.
decent contract. I think he was making like 400k, which is not. I mean, you know, that's novel. That's not insane, but you know, for a young player. I mean,
Yeah. No, we had to make some
I would
concessions.
definitely like us to go after players like this, but I think in order to do so, I don't think you just do that straight away. If you look at Club Brugge, for example, it took them almost a decade to build a network and a reputation and the financial means to be able to now go and shop and bring in those types of players and ultimately flip them for big profits to the Premier League or whatever. It took them a while. I definitely think we should be working towards that. But again, the whole longevity and the whole long-term project issue comes into play here. Yeah, the politics of the club are not... They aren't in favor of working like that because there's too much populism, there's too much need for short-term success. Turkish clubs are not Galatasaray or Fenerbahçe, neither of them. Like the only reason Galatasaray has long-term success is because they keep throwing more money at the problem than the opposition is, and they are able to do that. Galatasaray are not a club that invest in these types of players either. Beşiktaş should be. The problem is that the club isn't set up for long-term success. It's set up for short-term success because of the way the whole Congress thing works. I think if you, if
they get elected, I mean, it's like the American political system. Anyway, talk about something even more depressing than Beşiktaş. All right, Atil Can, haha guys, I didn't mean to send it into a conversation about the Scouts old board. I was just responding to someone in the chat. My bad. But you guys did a good job of piecing together what we've heard from the various sides. Thank you, sir. Sapper said Fico said that. I'm not sure what Fico said.
About?
Sorry, we lost track of that comment. Uzcan said part of the problem is that Arat ran with the Beşiktaş is going to be run by Beşiktaş people mantra. I think that's also part of the reason he didn't sack Samet, as it would be seen as doing a U-turn on what he got elected for. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ozcan.
I mean, I'm in favor of it as well. I think I've said this in the past. You know, I don't get why somebody like Mehmet Özilek isn't involved in the club. Has never been involved in the club ever since his retirement in 2001. He hasn't had a single involvement in the club. I don't quite understand why that is, but I also think I am in favor of it. But the people who are in those positions need to be competent. And I don't think Samet Aybaba has the competence for that. I mean...
want me to be honest, man, I don't care about Beşiktaş. I'm not Beşiktaş fans. I want professionals to run Beşiktaş. And Özcan, for example, wants that as well, but he's just saying that that's what kind of the mantra that Hassan Arat went with, and a large portion of the fan base when they saw him, that is like...
Kartal, if you had the choice between a competent Beşiktaş person or a competent person who has nothing with Beşiktaş, you would pick the Beşiktaş guy, right?
Yeah, but I don't think
exactly. But
Beşiktaş.
I think that's again one of those utopian situations where if you have the competent people, of course you want the Beşiktaş people in charge. But if the Beşiktaş people in charge are going to be, with all due respect, Ibrahim Üzülmez, who doesn't have a coaching career you can really brag about.
Yeah, what are we? You're committing to something that unnecessarily. You're handicapping yourself.
Bring in Beşiktaş people just because they're Beşiktaş people. They should still have merit and they should have the competencies that you're looking for.
Like, what are we going to bring in Batuhan Karadeniz? Because
imagine.
The only place you can put on Karadeniz is to get some extra views on Beşiktaş TV, man.
There you go.
He's gonna have to do it from Cyprus or something. Apparently, he fled the country, didn't he? Yeah, somebody said that recently that he fled the country because he got caught with some of those illegal betting stuff, and he had to run off. The same thing Galatasaray did, by the way, but they are immune, of course. Yeah.
Double standard.
People getting locked up. Galatasaray can do whatever they want.
So we got Jihad, another new name. Welcome, sir. He said, we had a great second half of the season with Güneş, where we had Salih, Amir, and Gedson. Salih, Gedson, Musrati is not a bad idea, in my opinion. We don't have any good wingers anyway. We might as well use Rafa on the side. I would say we didn't really have a great second half of the season with those midfielders, and the only reason it was pretty good was because Abubakar was playing out of his freaking boots. Like, and then died.
He wasn't even playing well. He was just scoring banger after banger after banger.
Yeah. And then just I don't know, lost it.
Take a couple of those wonder goals from Abu away, and you have a significant amount of points less. And then I don't think people look back as fondly at that second half of the season under Channel. I never thought that Channel got the Channel ball back into the team, into the club. He never got anywhere close to. I mean, even Kartal, you're a big Channel fan, or at least you used to be. I know Özcan especially.
I always have a lot of love and respect.
Yeah, but even you said that we never really played good under Güneş at the time. I think
Özcan said as well, but you also need to respect the fact that he got the best results we've had in the last 4 seasons. Even though
but take away those Abubakar screamers, and I don't think he does. I think his 2.2 points a game go to 1.87 or something.
And Kartal, I think you could probably argue that Gio's first month might have been better, at least as far as the prospects of where it could go. Yeah, I mean, as opposed to 2, right?
I think we're seeing very well right now at Trabzonspor that Şenol Güneş is not the answer.
Yeah, he's an old man. He needs to start spending.
I genuinely hope he hangs it up after this last failed attempt. So this,
Grey Wolf said, Grey Wolf asks, who gets the money for a sale? And that's a good question, because it obviously wouldn't go to. I think it probably just goes straight to the banks and paying off all of our
question.
debt.
I don't know either who gets the money. I guess all.
It would have to go into the clubs coffers.
I would maybe
somehow,
think
right?
the Congress members all get an equal share or something, or because they technically own the club, so I think they would get paid out.
Or we all get paid.
I think the Congress members get paid out in that situation. So it's time to become a Congress member.
Yeah. I better sign up, folks. Now that Fikret Orman has left and we're allowed to again. Jihad says a 4-3-3 is probably a better formation with the current squad. Semi Immobile Rafa on the forward line. Salih, Gedson, Musrati on the midline. I would say put Rafa back into the midfield and bring in a new winger. And I agree with you.
Is he talking about for the second half of the season or for now?
Well, it can't be now because Immobile is injured, and Gedson has a red card. Although not against Bodo Glimt, I guess.
I don't think you can. I mean, you can, of course, but that's gonna be a very painful second half of the season if you don't bring in. Yeah, you
need a winger. We need creation. We need chance creation.
At the bare minimum, you need to bring in a good winger and a good left back. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I could forgive whoever becomes president not bringing in a striker, but if you don't do anything, or you bring in like some Jan Kjellers 2.0, like then I'm already on the hate list, on the hate train then.
Same.
Again, you can't stand still in football. So, you need to keep moving forward.
You really and it's like just you guys think about next summer. What position do you guys want to be in when we have a new board and a new coach and everything is like we're trying to build this whole new project? Do you want to be in a position where we're again having to fill in like 6 holes in the squad? Because we're not going to be able to, right? We're going to make 3 moves at best.
You don't.
3 good moves.
The moves have to be the right moves. You can't just bring in another Chiro. And again, I like Chiro, but again, you can't just go bring in another 34-year-old on 6 million short-term move. You need to. I'm okay with a 30-year-old because I think you can. I think a 30-year-old you can play 2-3 years. You get 2-3 years out of, and that's realistically what you're gonna get out of most players anyway. So I'm fine with.
Yeah, because even if he's young, he'll be sold by then. Anyway,
I mean, if he's good enough and he's young, then you'd expect him to be gone in 2 years, right? And obviously, a 30-year-old wouldn't really have resale value, but if he in those 2 or 3 seasons can lift us up to a higher level and we can be competitive, I think that's worth 10, 15 million. Which you maybe, let's say you bring in a 22-year-old, he's really good, and you buy him for 5 and you sell him for 20, so you make a 50 million profit. But if he doesn't lift you necessarily to that next level, I think that 15 million is relatively negligible if you can get a Champions League ticket out of it, or at least a qualification ticket. So not every player's value lays in resale value. Some players are just there for 2-3 years and you get mileage out of them, significant mileage.
Well, yeah, and if you can get a good core, like that's what you build around, and that's how you actually find that success that we've talked about. That's so hard to find.
Now we're doing stuff backwards
again. You need
again,
that core, and then you can kind of build around the periphery.
We're doing stuff backwards again now. What Katla was saying earlier, to put the cherries on top at the end. No, we are putting the cherries in the middle already, and then we're putting more Cool Whip on top of it.
And I think that's also, as you've already sort of alluded to, but that's also just a product of where we are, right? Like we kind of, we need the sort of quality injection to just produce results right now, and we need like we need someone who can create like 2 chances a game. Like Kartal has sort of hammered on about for much of the season so far, right? Well, like because that's what Angelo Gabriel would have provided, and he's 100% right. Like that's what we need.
2.5 to 3 chances a game on average. Imagine. What difference would that make?
Yeah.
Imagine you can get Chiro 3 chances per match.
And
imagine the enthusiasm going into next season if we had that in place. Because then it's like, oh my God, what are we gonna?
He's going to go back up to where it was at Benfica as well if you get that lineup, because if you've got a big threat on the wing, suddenly Rafa's going to have a lot more space to operate in.
I'm going to say something right now. I think that's going to piss some people off. I'm not it's more like posing a question. But do you guys think if we had gotten Di Maria together with Rafa, if we would be in a very different situation right now?
I mean,
I think we'd be in a lot better.
I think, but if you're going to get if you signed Di Maria, I think you need to get a different right back. Because I think like Svensson's good, but I think you need someone that's going to be very athletic and going to be able to run up and down, because Di Maria's not going to.
But Svensson does that too. He does run up and down. Yeah. I'm just gonna have a look at Di Maria's stats this season, Because I saw he scored an incredible goal. Let's see, he's got 4 goals in the league and 2 assists. So that's not amazing.
Not stellar.
And let's see how many chances per 90 he creates.
5.
5.
2.45.
So
that would be
that's
excellent.
not insane, but that's a lot better than Rasicka.
That's kind of what
Right
we
now,
need.
it
That's still
feels
what we
like
need.
when Rasicka is playing, we're playing with 10 men, and I kind of have the same feeling when Much is playing on the wing. Like, I don't think Di Maria would be playing a man down at least. I'm not saying. Obviously,
That's
Di
right.
Maria would be making insane money. He was on 9.5 million a year at Benfica, and there's paying 6 million a year for Rafa and Chiro, and then there's paying 10 million plus a year for a 37-year-old Di Maria. I'm not in favor of it. Just for the record, I do, however, think that on the pitch we'd probably be in a better situation if the wages got paid.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's true. There's other layers that you have to uncover after that, but anyhow, Sarper says Fico said. Sorry, Cartel.
It's clearly not financially feasible to bring a guy like that.
No, yeah, it wouldn't be a smart
But
move.
instead of getting Di Maria on 10 million a year or whatever, if you got a good winger on 3 million a year, that would be or 3.5.
Would be nice.
L4.
Would be nice. If you really want to say something to piss people off, I hate to say this because I was really down on him for a while, but I feel like if we had Alain Saint-Maximin, we'd probably be doing so well.
I genuinely feel like when he took him off is when they lost the game, because then their biggest threat was gone.
Yeah.
And the thing with him is he isn't very efficient, but man, like, he's also almost unstoppable. Like, Svensson had a really hard time with him, and I would argue Svensson right now probably the best right back in the league. You know, you have Oxlade-Chamberlain, who is very, very athletic, but I think total package wise, I would argue that Svensson's maybe the best in the league right now.
It's not impossible, only because, like, who is Galatasaray's right back?
And Kalayan is defensively an excellent right back, I think.
He's pretty
But
good,
going
but that's
forward,
not really
he's
his like
limited.
most natural
That's why
position.
I'm saying, I think going forward, Oxlade-Chamberlain is better. But I think defensively, Oxlade-Chamberlain defends really well with his body, but I don't think he has the defensive awareness that Svensson has.
Yeah. So Fico, responding to Graywell's question about who gets the money, he said they all split the money to fans between all the fans. We need to get bankrupt first, so that money will go to the banks for the debts, basically. Fico said Fico,
if you buy a club, you buy the debt. Then you
Probably,
have the buyer,
you
buyer
inherit
pays
it.
the debt. I'm pretty sure. I think the members get the money.
Yeah, and I think you'd hope that the members might let some of that money go towards the debt, but that's kind
I'm not sure
to
how
their
it works.
discretion.
That's really the sort of question you should be asking Carlito. He loves to dive into the statutes of the club.
Where is
Here
Carlito,
today,
my
he'll
guy?
be
Where
watching
are
on
you?
delay, I guess.
He's gonna watch this he's gonna watch it in review and be sad that he was called out
Multiple
so many
times.
times. We need you,
Carlito.
man.
Where are you, bro? Dutch Eagle, by the way.
You see, listeners? You could become a part of the show, just like that.
All you have to do
anyway.
is become a Patreon member for just $1.99 a month. But remember, it's only 50 cents your first month now if you sign up before the 5th of January.
Yeah, holiday special.
75%, guys.
Santa Claus. Okay, where are we? Sarper says Fico said that Uchel was going to be in Adali's board. Oh, because I said
Yeah.
I had asked what he was talking about when Fico said that.
Right. Yeah. You're right. Fiket Oman had said that Uchel had. They obviously have a rapport because if you remember, when we signed Kagawa, Uchel was the guy who sponsored that. So obviously, Uchel and Orman are, I don't know if they're friends, but you know, at least amicable, I imagine. So he asked Fikret Orman for advice, apparently. That's what Orman said when he went on... was it? I think it was also with Chandash Tolga Ishik on Ekol TV. And he told the story that Yücel was looking to partner with Adali, supposedly as his vice president or whatever. But Adali was kind of hesitant. And then Arad was actually the one who pursued Yücel, who called him and wanted to get him on his board instead. And Yücel was kind of on the fence and asked Orman for advice, and Orman told him, well, go with the man who go with the person who actually wants you. And that's what he did.
There you go. I mean, I have to say that Fikret Orman has done great work as far as his reputation goes in this last month or so. As far as like saying good things, he hasn't even announced, like he's clearly not going to run for president,
May,
which
adds
a further positive spin. Yeah, he'll probably have a role somewhere, but he's done a lot of good work for his rep.
Not with Chacha though.
Sapper said, no, that's true. Sapper said, still, it was the best game we played in the last 3 or 4 years. The best games we played in the last... Oh, maybe like the Chanel period with Abu scoring bangers? I don't know what he's talking about.
I thought we didn't play good football at all. I think the best
we played terribly. Yeah, I would not agree.
We've played the last 3 to 4 years is definitely under Gio in the first month. If you're gonna look at matches in a vacuum, I definitely think that the best football we played was this season.
Yeah.
The best run of results is undoubtedly Cheryl. We didn't lose it for 6 months, but the best football was clearly that first month under Gio.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years.
Exactly. Again, Sapper says, no, it's not possible to buy a foundation. You can only buy Beşiktaş Football AS, which would lead the foundation's board.
Okay, that might be true.
So that's something.
So
then
Abidjan, buy the football branch. The rest would stay as the club. The football branch you can buy because that's a separate company.
Yeah, that's true. That is a company. That's a publicly traded company. That's true. But it would still require the members to sign off, and then I suppose people who own stock would get paid out. So not the members, but people who own stock, because it's not because you are a member of the Congress that you own stock, obviously. So time to buy Beşiktaş stock.
Yeah, I mean it would require some pretty serious restructuring, which would then, like you said, it would need board approval, and I mean it would be supremely.
But that makes a lot more sense. What Sapper said, actually, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that the club is actually a public traded company.
Yeah, the publicly traded part. Yeah. I wonder. Anyway, I believe dwell on it, but anyway,
isn't the rest of the club also publicly traded, or just under a different ASHE? Yeah.
I was going to ask. Yes, like the basketball branch or the volleyball.
I think the amateur sports and all that is also
under a separate one.
Yeah. Right? There's like 2 companies, I think, 2 Beşiktaş companies, if I'm not mistaken. Because they separated them like maybe 10 years ago or something. I think Fikret Orman did that. He separated the football branch from the rest, so that obviously the income, the income for the football club only goes to the football club and stuff like that. I guess before that it kind of was divided a little bit in a big pot or something.
Yeah, who knows? Atılcan says Di Maria is not the explosive winger anymore, but obviously would be much better than what we have.
I mean,
basically where we all landed.
He's not the explosive winger anymore, but neither is Rashica, and at least Di Maria can cross and can take set pieces. And he can score bangers.
The set pieces is a huge aspect of it. And then finally, our last comment of the episode. This is a pretty long episode. He said ASM was clearly gassed. That guy's fitness levels are terrible. I did not notice him drop off in that sense, but I'll take the word for it.
It must be something like that, because I've noticed that Mourinho subs him consistently around like an hour to 70 minutes. So I think, he must not have the stamina to go.
It's like
to go all night long.
That sort of the Reminds us of Nkudu or something like
yeah.
that, maybe. Well, that's it, man. That's it for our comments.
I'm going to do one last plug then for the Patreon page. So we have a bunch of new people who tuned in today. And if you missed the advert at the beginning of the podcast, then please consider subscribing to our Patreon page. Become a Black Eagle VIP member. Right now is the best possible time to become a Black Eagle VIP member. Not only has our club been in total chaos, which means a lot of extra content on the VIP side of things. I think last week I recorded like 3 or 4 podcasts on my own. I recorded one with Kartal as well. So just on the VIP side of things, last week you got like 4, 5, 6 episodes. On top of that, today, early access to our Bodo Glimt preview. A little short, that's the VIP exclusivity there, because tomorrow it's already going live on our YouTube channel. Normally, I would have already had it last week, but due to scheduling issues with the guest I was supposed to have last week, it didn't work out. But normally you get like at least a week early access to all our video content and that kind of stuff, as long as it's not like super prudent that it's online quickly, because otherwise it loses topicalness or whatever. And of course, it's a great way to support the podcast. It's just $2 a month, but the first 7 days are free. You can essentially get a free trial. So if you're on the fence, if you don't know if you really want to give $2 a month to another subscription, I know you probably have a Netflix subscription, maybe you have Disney Plus, maybe you have Prime, YouTube, I don't know. There's so many different subscriptions nowadays, so maybe you don't want to pay an extra $2 a month, or you're not quite sure. Go at least try out the 7-day free trial, see what's on offer, and if you are willing to part with the $2 a month. But if you then decide to continue and you stay a Black Eagle VIP member, the first month 75% off for the new year, so you'll only be paying 50 cents. 50 cents, how much lira is that, Kartal? How much is
It's just like,
6 lira?
no, it's more than that, man. It's probably about like 15 lira or something.
So 15 lira, I mean, can you even
Maybe.
buy a simit with 15 lira nowadays?
No, but that's probably all you can get.
So for the price of a simit, you can get access to the Black Eagle VIP podcast and early access to all our videos. And on top of that, when we're about to end here, as Sinan takes us out, you're going to get a shout out from the man himself, Sinan Schwarding, at the end of all our live shows. So that's my plug. Please do consider to join us on Patreon. But if you don't, we always appreciate you watching and commenting and giving us that thumbs up at the end of the video or during your watch. And of course, joining us in the live chat. Your contributions make the show more engaging for everyone. Thank you very much.
So, I suppose it's that time of the episode. First of all, everyone, as Khan said, like, follow, subscribe. It's super important that you do that. That's how we gain some traction and keep going. So, yeah, do that, obviously. We'll see you on Thursday for a huge match on the road against Bodo
Friday,
Glimt.
huh? Or live show.
The
match is on Thursday, but we are on Friday.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. No, yeah. The match is on Thursday at 3 p.m. here in New York. So check your local listings. If you're here in the U.S., that's Paramount Plus. Where do we air these games in Turkey?
TRT, so if you watch it via Tabi. One more thing, by the way, for all the new people in the chat or that join us regularly in the chat. If you are on X, send me a message at Rosarian. Send me a message and I will give you the link to our WhatsApp community so you can join us. I see a lot of new names every week in the live chat. People who aren't in the community yet. We have a fantastic community. It's super active. People talking every day, all day, all Beşiktaş. We always talk about Beşiktaş. Come and join us there as well. That's also that is free, by the way. That is not part of the whole Patreon deal. That is free.
That's right.
All of you loyal live chatters and listeners and watchers, please reach out to me on Twitter/X, and I will get you that link.
Yeah, and the reason we want you to reach out to Khan, we used to have it out publicly, and we got all these weird scammers and douchebags trying to hawk weird services.
Bitcoin,
So,
crypto scams
reach
and
out to
stuff like
Khan.
that. So we don't want that anymore. So we keep
Yeah.
it. Now we're just
don't need
giving
any
the
of that
link
drama.
out privately, but everyone is welcome.
Yeah, and we're protecting our community, keeping those troublemakers out of it. But yeah, so stay in tune. We'll be back very soon on Friday afternoon to talk about hopefully something good. We'll see how it goes on Thursday. But until then, and this is rather important at this time of the year to mention, let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everybody!
We're back! We actually are back!
We're back, baby! Thank you, Ozkan Zanzavadji, Atiljan Malak, Paul O'Connor, Nathan Davis, Dara, the Irishman Hensey, 1 and a 2 and a 3, Senor Keith Gregory, and of course, the indomitable, the Dutch Eagle himself. Thank you all. Keep the subscriptions coming, folks, and we will be back with more content ASAP. Peace out, everybody!
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast YouTube channel. Thank you very much for being a loyal listener and tuning in each and every week to our episodes. With the new year fast approaching, we have a special offer for you. Not only will you get 7 days for free when you go to patreon.com/Beşiktaş podcast and become a Black Eagle VIP member, you will now also get 75% off on your first month going from December 1st to January 5th, 2025. So if you subscribe between the 1st, which is already past us, and the 5th of January, you will get your first month for just 50 cents. What will you get in return? You will, of course, gain access to our Black Eagle VIP podcast, which is a weekly podcast. But last week, I think I did about 5 or 6 episodes covering all the ins and outs of Beşiktaş, with Hasan Arat stepping down, Hüseyin Yücel becoming the new president, Samet Aybaba's press conference, all of that. We tackled it last week in a Black Eagle VIP podcast that you will gain access to. Of course, you will also gain early access to all the video content that we put out on our channel here on YouTube. And on top of that, you will also gain access to an audio-only file of those videos. So if you're one of those people who prefers to listen to everything on the go, then you will also gain access to the audio file of those videos. If you don't have YouTube Premium, that's always a nice added bonus. And of course, you will get a shout out at the end of our live shows each and every week. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast YouTube channel.